Okay, I think we're good. Nothing is locking up on me. All right. So, yeah, happy New Year. New Year. I appreciate everyone joining me today. This was one of these updates that was not on the roadmap, mainly because I know how exciting it is to get rid of the old builder we had. And it's a lot of unnecessary pressure to put on ourselves if we're not even close to being done. But I was able to get this pushed out. We're still missing the blog engine and the email engine. That conversion hopefully be wrapped up today. I was wanting it to be done before this call, but that didn't happen. But so the blog works the same way as it did before. The process is going to be similar. I think the biggest change between the blog today with the new builder is when you create your blog, it's already going to pull in your global header and your global footer and your design from your website that you sync it up with. So you don't have to do those one. If you've set up a blog with our system, it's basically like 2 steps to put the global header and footer in before you start configuring your blog. So that will already happen for you. And then the email builder, if you've ever noticed, that was probably our worst creation of all, just because of the fact that if you've ever tested your email on Outlook, or maybe it was Gmail, one of the other clients, if you're using our template, it was the pits. And if you try to make changes and things like that, it was a bit of a nightmare. So I'm glad we were able to basically rebuild with the same builder that we have now with the new version. And so the email system is going to work really well, and you won't have all the pains and complaints that you've had in the past. So if you're new here and you haven't gone through our training on the CMS, it's still relevant. It's actually really relevant when you start looking at just the layers and elements that you do within a builder when you want to control certain things. One of the major differences of our system and a lot of other systems, at least the way I wanted to create it, when I create a website, yeah, it's really fun to build something from scratch. Very difficult to do that in the old builder. As far as time is money and building something really high end for a client, being able to drag over, and we weren't able to drag over content blocks, you were selecting them, but having these repository of content blocks that you can pull over to the canvas and then manipulate them was the whole idea of the builder, the first version of the builder. We obviously failed at a lot of elements of that because important classes and things like that prevented you from changing simple things, background images, background colors, things like that. All addressed in this new builder. Still have the block concept that's there, but in addition to that, we started building out a component library that will give you that start from scratch type of functionality. And then in addition to that, I didn't want to lose the ability to import your own themes. The next iteration of this, allowing you to not only create your own thumbnails for custom themes, but create your own custom blocks, and then including your assets so they don't see the assets in the head and the script section. So really being able to create your own base themes like you're a theme forest or some of these other template providers that will give you that edge when you go out there and say, hey, come, especially if you're going for niches, right? So if you're going to go after the home improvement contracting industry, right? You can simply go and get 5, 10 different industry websites, get them loaded up in here with all the tags and make it really easy for them. And now with the new builder, you can do less of the tag side of it and allow them to come in with just a little bit of training to really make those changes. That's enough of really the overview. But if you've watched any of the videos that we had on the previous CMS, same concept, just all the little things that were annoying, I hope we flushed out. I know several have said yes, and there's other issues with older sites, and I'll address those at the end of some of the things you may run into and how to fix those. But to start off, another thing here, the theme library is, I know I owe like 1,000 themes by now, but more importantly, those landing pages that I posted on Facebook, I was definitely premature because I honestly thought that this builder was not going to be ready until 2 or 3 months from now. Those are all being prepped. So you're going to see those. One's called Convert, which is really cool. That's the one with the Experian ERC landing page, which is really awesome. It's one of my favorite. So this library is obviously going to rapidly grow. The current, I guess, the most up-to-date theme that we have is this Bootstrap theme. This theme is just vanilla Bootstrap. You come in, you can use the components that are on there. You can add in additional style sheets that you may get from other themes, or if you're just building something from scratch, which I'll show you here with the new builder on the Bootstrap theme, that's a great one to start with. It's almost like a blank import. But if you're starting with a Bootstrap import, if you're more of an advanced user who's importing themes, this already includes that Bootstrap layer. So all you have to apply is any customizations that you've done on top of Bootstrap, or you can just go in through the blank import side. This blank imports theme, I was overstressed this on the previous version, that you should only use this for blank imports. But now that you can actually work with the canvas and drag components over, I think Salvador, who posted on Facebook group about he was probably one of the most vocal as far as how much he hated our CMS in a good way, just to make us better, which I absolutely appreciate that. I think he started with a blank import. So you can start with any of these. Just think this is a blank canvas. So you're creating something from scratch or you're importing it. If you're going to import a Bootstrap theme, and I also have Tailwind, by the way, almost done. So you'll be able to import Tailwind that just has the base of Tailwind CSS in it. So for this example, I will start with the Bootstrap with dark side. This is pretty much converted over, is up to date, is older than the Bootstrap, and then launch as well. When you build these sites in the SASE, they come with their own internal pages and things like that. So there's a lot more elements with these. And of course, it would be great if we could just revamp all of these and make them a great starting point. And I think we've done a decent job with the new CMS. So no matter which one you're starting with, it's night and day compared to what it was before. If you've already built the site on the old CMS, I went back and forth on having the button to toggle between the old and the new. I felt like it was just too much effort to make that work and delay this even longer. That if you want to still work on the old CMS, I have a special URL for that, and I'll post it on the Facebook group of what you need to do with the URL to get to the old CMS. It was too much for me to put a button in here to switch between the two of it, and I didn't want to delay it any longer than that. So if you need to go back to the old CMS, you can. You just have a special URL. However, if you did build a site on the old system and there's some weird stuff going on, get with me on support. I think I flushed out everything, but even today, Ray was giving me an example, and same with Steve. Some of the conversions didn't quite match up. So if you see something weird and you're trying to edit an old site that was built on the old CMS, jump on support, let me know about it. If you can do a quick little video of it, that would be great too. That way I can just make sure I continue to map any issues that have gone forward. But so far, it has been very limited. So creating a website, I might as well explain this. I know a lot of people on this call are either new or haven't done this yet. There's two sections within our platform to create websites. You can create websites, and we call them funnels. And I know everybody is used to ClickFunnels and the one upsell process and things like that. If you get the vision of our platform, and now with this new CMS, those are just simple modules that we can add on all day long, and that's where we're going. So even though it's called a funnel, you can build a website, you can build landing pages, microsites, whatever. So the two sections that you can build in are the CMS funnels and then templates funnels. Funnels is that same concept. I want to reuse this template for a child site, a child account. I want to create niche sites and have them automatically built in on demand. I want to deploy near me. Again, if you're building client sites for clients and you set up a landing page, starting from that landing page is a lot easier than starting from scratch, even if you're copying and pasting things like that. So in this example, I'm just going to go through the CMS funnels, but if you build one over here, inside your account, you have this little tab called custom templates, and all of your base sites that you create inside this templates funnels will show up here. And of course, you also can do it by a role. So if you're inside this website here in the settings, you have role access. So you can set up a role for chiropractors, set up a role for home improvement contractors and turn them on. And then when they go into their account to set up a website, they click on create new funnel, custom templates. They'll see all the ones that you give them access to. And of course, you'll have access to everything within here. So just walking through real quick, creating a new funnel. You have the option of assigning to a workspace. If you're not familiar with workspaces, again, it originally was built to be a foldering system so you can organize all your assets, especially if you have a bunch of email templates, phone lines, things like that. You can get crazy in there. And of course, now you can share those with individual users and also roles. So if you assign this website to that workspace, obviously, it'll only be associated with that workspace. But name it whatever you want. This is just an internal sample builder. I'm not going to put a workspace, so hit clone. If this is one of those themes that has multiple pages, it'll build out all those pages. What's also cool about the next iteration of this, when you can build your own themes, it'll also include the theme pages, the theme assets, everything. So I'm really excited about that part of it. But just going through here, the options, you have your preview options. So if I preview here, this is just showing me the sample that's built on it. And then in addition to that, you have to go right in your settings. This is where you're going to, there's these different tags and different things like that. I won't bore you down or go down that path in this training. I may open up for if you have questions about it, of course. But all these are just basically tags that you can use within the site. They don't really control anything. Logo and for your fab icon or whatever, that shows up on the site, but the rest of the stuff other than domain, but all that, I guess SEO does, but these tags here, they're not prepped. So you would have to prep them if you want to leverage them on your site, especially if you're building out templates. The embed section, this is if you're going to embed anything inside your site above and beyond what you have inside the builder. And then of course, all your custom fields that you want to create. What else here before I go into the builder? Asset manager. So this is super important. If you're using this and you're bringing over assets to import for your site, that's extremely time consuming. So if you come into your asset manager, you can create your file folders. And then when you go into your file folders, you can click on upload and you can drag them all over here. One thing you'll notice about our system, we all have relative path. So you're going to want that relative path and then your file names. And I'll talk about that at the very end about how to import a site and just briefly and kind of show you how quickly you can do that. So asset manager is important to go through that. If you ever build something in here, you're like, oh snap, I should have built it in the funnel section. You can make it a template and then it'll show up in your templates funnel section and then add collab. Collab's important if you're not wanting to share a whole workspace, or if you just want a contractor that you've hired to build the site, or if what we do is we'll go in and set the site up initially inside the client's account, and then we'll add our designer to the collab user. So that way your designer doesn't have to log into their account. They can just access it directly into their system and make changes and updates. That's extremely helpful, obviously, if you're doing maintenance on the site for the client. And then delete, of course. So that's pretty much it on the settings. Click that icon or go into the builder. So this is the new builder. Again, the layout and everything else, to me, in my opinion, is much better. But one thing that I did like about the other builder is that it was separated into multiple panels. That was great for me because I'm on a massive 4K monitor, and it's a real selfish thing for me to have it like that, because all these different monitors and different sizes, you're almost at mobile view when you're looking at this. Got rid of that. We're all on the right side. And so just going from left to right over here. So you have this little icon here. This is going to give you, actually, I'll come back to the views as far as how you edit and change in different mobile views. But you have this little icon here. This is, if you're used to the old builder, this is awesome because you have no idea what you're clicking on. So it's hard to find your little layer where you want to go. And this builder works the same way, and a lot of builders work this way, but basically if you look at HTML code, you have just all these divs and sections and just all these HTML elements that are layered out. And so when you're trying to edit something on the DOM, like here on the browser, you're clicking on the top layer, which is the inside layer of all your code. And so sometimes when you click here, you may think you're on the right element. This is obvious with the image here, but you may not be on the right element. And so you do something that doesn't quite work out that you want when you either duplicate it or change that element. And that's where you have to understand the concept of these layers to really benefit from all the different stuff that you can do with it. But one of the biggest things is the navigation, right? So on the navigation side, a lot of other systems, and I guess I was torn between this, and maybe we have just a simple component now that we're able to do this in scale. But our navigation system is you build it yourself, right? And then we have these global blocks, and that's reused across your entire site. Why you have the control, or why that's beneficial when you control your navigation, is you can build these mega menus. You can do whatever you want based on the theme. And so if you automatically create a dynamic menu every time, you're limited as far as what you look like based on that theme or what you want to override. And so I just never liked that. And so you really have the freedom of building the navigation. I'll talk about that in a second as far as just some of the tips that I can go through. And if you watch that YouTube video that it did on the navigation bar, this builder works the exact same way. So hopefully you weren't cursing the old CMS because how you had to build out the navigation, because it is exactly the same way. The only difference is now you have these guidelines. It's a lot easier to understand. So that's what this icon is. In addition to that, you have a preview mode, excuse me. By the way, if you don't know about this, you can click on this little icon here, little button, and move your mouse out. If you try to keep your mouse, it'll stay there. But if you move out, it'll move, give you just way more real estate. The preview button is a lot better than before, just because it actually makes it almost like a full preview while you're working in here. This full screen, this is my favorite because this actually gives you true full screen. So it takes away our left-hand navigation. It takes away the top section. So again, if you're working on a smaller screen, this is going to be night and day, because the other one, again, was selfishly built for my own eyes and not for everyone else's, evidently. And then just hit that button and it comes back. I know a lot of people have complained about the undo. This undo is way better, so that's good. And in addition to that, you have to go back forward. So if you go back and you want to go back to the other side. And then this icon here is for, so I won't confuse everybody yet about the import template process. You don't have to import it this way. You can actually use the import the same way that we did before. They're just different tabs and a lot easier to understand. And you don't have to worry about any of that data script or any of that stuff. The only thing you have to worry about is what you wrap your assets with. And I'll explain the meaning behind that. But again, if you're not having imported templates and you're just trying to use this system to come in and build out something from an existing template or something from scratch, you don't really need to know too much about that, but it's really easy, much easier than before. The delete icon, so this is going to clear your entire canvas, which is helpful if you want it to just go off of, let's say, Bootstrap, but you want to start from scratch. That's great. So you can start over here. And so now you still have the Bootstrap, anything you pull over. So if you pull over columns or whatever, and then you pull over these text sections, all this is still Bootstrap, right? And so you have all the little elements. So you don't have to worry about styling or putting fonts or things like that. It's already going to pick up that Bootstrap style, even if you delete the canvas. Same thing goes for the dark side. So you notice if you delete the dark side template, everything is still that dark background color. Of course, you can override that and change that and do whatever you want, but delete will actually keep you within that theme opposed to like changing everything out. This little hand icon, this allows you now to just start moving things around. So this gets interesting when you start with something that's already built, right? Because all these little things here are moving up and they're responsive. So you definitely want to use this if you're doing it on a blank canvas. Basically, explain this concept, right? So when you drag over an image or whatever, it's automatically pull up our image gallery, and then you can resize it or use the style button over here. But if you're using this hand guy, so if I want to move it over to this div, I can do that. And I move it over, but it's all keeping whatever the style is of your theme or whatever you've done 100% on these columns and everything like that. The second you use, this is now putting this wherever you want. So I put that there, I can resize. The problem that you have with this, it's not really a problem. It's just, again, if you're designing from scratch or building something like this, I'll put my data form here. I'll move that over here like that. Right. So when I'm doing this, you got to watch out for mobile and tablet, right? So if I click on tablet, everything's over here. So I definitely want to move over and resize so you can see if I go back to mobile or desktop, it's going to look like this. So you're actually designing specifically for whatever device you're on, right? Typically what I would do is I would design my mobile first and then go to my tablet and then move over in my desktop if I'm building a simple landing page. But just make note of that, like any change that you make with this little hand icon, it's giving absolute positioning. It's literally what you're seeing is what you're going to get based on where you put it at. And so you have to go into each version and move it around. I'm off the canvas over here, so I would need to come back over here, move this around over here, and then build my thing over here and just try to get it. Well, I have to move it even further than that to move it over, right? But getting everything in where I want on each device, I would start with the smallest device first because you'll be off the screen and you have to move over and do all that other stuff. So anyway, the hand tool, very helpful. If you're trying to use it with a theme that's already existing, don't freak out because things are moving. The reason why they're moving is because they're all responsive, set up in a theme. So obviously you're not going to want to do that. It's sitting on top of everything. I would use the hand tool for maybe just like little things you want to move around, or if the theme you're on has elements, but all this stuff's going to move up because it's all responsive and it's not instantly going into absolute positioning. Save. So this is different. When you click save, this is actually saving. So I guess the old one did it that way. It didn't like double prompt you. So save, there's your save button. So this side over here for all your editing sections, this by default are your components. I'll go from left to right here instead of starting on this one. When you click on this component or anything on the screen, this little tab right here, this is where you can control everything. This is helpful, by the way, if you know the classes associated with Bootstrap. We do have on the settings side some already pre-built, and that repository is going to grow, especially for Tailwind. But if you know the classes, if you just go to bootstrap.com or the Bootstrap 5, and you know the classes for what you want to accomplish, you just hit that little icon there, put in whatever class you want, the name of it, and hit enter. And now that element has that class. So you're able to do that within here, and it just gives you just a better representative. You could have done that on the other one. It's just not intuitive enough for you to do that, but you can add whatever classes you want. So if you're using the Bootstrap theme, I highly recommend going to look at all the classes that are available for the theme itself. Of course, you got your floats, display. This is cool, by the way. I know a lot of people ask this. So for instance, if I was on mobile and I just don't want this to show up on mobile, I can do display none. And then when I come back out here, there it is, right? So on mobile, it's display none, but on desktop, it's not. So there's your display option. So if you want to display none, that's there. Oops, all your different positioning, just play around with this, especially if you're doing absolute with the hand icon and things like that. You can fully control that, which again, a lot of these settings were on the old builder, but you can ask many, they would do things and they would say, why didn't this change? This is ridiculous. And they get so frustrated. The reason why it wasn't changing is because the theme that you were working on had important class for those certain classes that you were on. And it just was very difficult to know what to make more important than the other. And so we figured all that out. So this actually will make sure that when you make a change, it makes a change. This goes back to if you built on the old designer or the old builder and something is not changing for you, or something is acting weird, let me know. I pretty much converted everything, but just let me know. So on new sites, anything you change here will change within here. With auto height, what's also cool here is that you have all the different options here too. So you don't have just pixel wide, your percentages. That's helpful if you're building something from scratch and you want it to be 1200 wide on mobile or 1200 on desktop and so forth. Margin, again, that's play around where you want to position everything, padding. You also have full control of the fonts. Oh, I meant to tell you, maybe you should start here. So on the theme level, you have all these different options here. One of the things that we had on the old theme, you had to hit refresh. You don't have to do that anymore. You can actually just change out. So you can figure out what's the best color scheme for yourself all the way down. And depending on the theme, we'll have this. And then of course, all your different fonts that you can switch before. And this, again, I'm going to explain this on the back end. I know it's a little confusing. Sometimes you have to hit a save button and sometimes you don't have to hit a save button. This global attribute section here, this is actually saving real time for you. So when you're making changes, it's actually saving what you have inside these boxes. However, it is refreshing on the screen for you. So I know that's confusing, but there's a reason for that. Just think anything you make a change on the theme level, it's like setting it in your browser here. You don't have to hit save. Everywhere else, you have to hit save. So best thing to do is just hit save all the time, and then you don't have to worry about it. So I'll come back to that. So general, we've gone through that, dimensions, typography. You can go through all these and play around with it. Background images, I did want to show you something on background images. That's all the extra stuff. So that's under decorations. So I saw someone post about changing background images, how difficult it is. One of the things here about, let me go into the dark theme. So if you have one of these backgrounds like this, right? This is oftentimes in the CSS folder. It may be inline, but as long as you click on it, now when you come over here and click on decorations, you come over here and click on background. So this is picking up the background image through here just based on this theme. But you may be in a theme or you may have a block that's using some other data attribute or whatever as your background. In that case, you would just add your background. You click on add background. You have the option of changing it from an image. You can change it to a background color if you wanted to, or whatever. And then you can also do gradient. So if you wanted a gradient, go from whatever you want. And then of course you have different settings that you can put in on your gradient for direction, bottom, top, whatever, right? And linear, however you want, right? But on the image side of it, go back here. To change it, you're going to want to just hit. What's great is when you play around with this, I'm probably over explaining this, but on your image here, you just double click on, oops, I'm sorry. You got to clear out the image and then click on image. So then you just come in here and grab whatever image you want. So in addition to that, one thing to note, if you're not familiar with cover, that's going to cover it. And then you also have your fix. So if you want it to be like that. So just play around with this. And of course you want to turn off no repeat so it doesn't repeat if this image is not big enough. So let me go back to the bootstrap. Continue through that. Yeah, so all of your elements, of course, you got to be in an element. You have all your different options if it's a flex div and play around with that. So you can move, you can basically control way more than you did before, which is great. More importantly, when you change it, it'll actually update what you want. Next screen. So this is one of the things that was posted on Facebook as far as the settings. So for instance, there's a widget here for a countdown. And this countdown, including all these widgets, and not only widgets, but also divs, this little settings tab will change based on whatever option that you have, right? So in text expired, I can say this, whatever, right? So depending on the widget or whatever you're in, so if I'm in the image, those are the only options for image, which we need to add multiple options. But if I come into here, I have all these different options, right? So padding, I can do the bootstrap built-in padding. I can do the bootstrap built-in margin. I can float to the start and all the other things or whatever, just play around with whatever you want. These are all those classes that I talked about that are already set up inside of Bootstrap that you can add in addition to these. So I try to get as many as we could. And by the way, anything from a background color or text color, that's controlled by your theme element, right? So all of these are controlled by all the different classes that you use within these different settings. So anytime you're working on something, so when I click on this div, I click on settings, all my different settings options. And again, some settings are going to grow. In most cases, if you click on a div or a text area, you have all these different options here that you can change on the setting standpoint. That is different than this section. This is all class driven. So if you make a change here, you don't have to continue to update every element that you click with whatever different component change that you want to do. This is all class driven. So, you know, if you're familiar with CSS and you want to build your own classes, you can do that. Or again, if you're using the Bootstrap theme, all the classes and styles you could ever imagine are already in there. And you can apply the classes here, and then you can use the pre-built ones that are within here. So moving on. So over in the old builder, I had this left-hand side where you can go to whatever div that you want within here, and it'll scroll down to that div. Same thing. You can also turn off these so you can see what it looks like. And of course, if you save this, it'll obviously save without those divs. So and you can also rename these too if you want to organize it. And so I'll save these IDs. And so when you come back in, before you had to actually get in the code to do that, you can change this to whatever you want. And this will show up just for organizing your layers or just making it easier for others to come in and edit where they need to edit. This goes back to the same concept. Find that layer that you want and make the change within that layer. If you can't find the layer, again, this little icon here helps you find what layer you're on, and it's a lot easier than before. So this is the layers tab. Again, settings, this changes based on the element you're on. The components tab. So this is going to grow. I know I'm missing a button, which is actually going to be an href. So that's going to be included in here. A navigation type, multiple column types, pre-built heroes, things like that. So this is going to constantly grow. This will get you started. I know that the navigation is missing, which is important. So when you start on the Bootstrap theme or whatever, you already have a navigation here in a footer. So you could come in here and actually just delete all these things and start building your own thing if you wanted to, and come in here and just bring in your columns, do your own thing here, however you want, right? So that's coming. So the components wise, you'll have a navigation to drag over. Images, as soon as you drag over, it's going to pop up. So you can grab whatever you want on an image standpoint. You can double click on images, by the way, that are already in the system. I won't choose my ugly mug there, but yeah, so you can double click. One thing I do, just one thing as far as a design standpoint, when you use this little drag and drop, whatever, right? I don't necessarily like that. It doesn't matter. It's a lot easier to do that. But one thing I would do is I would come in here and change my width. So if I change that, in most cases, it'll already resize for you. But I would use 100% width just so you have, by the way, if you ever want to remove any element that's here, you just click on that. That way you're not forcing an exact size on that image just for mobile purposes and responsive, but it's probably too much to explain. So image wise, drag it over, it'll pop up the image side. Text, same thing. Link. So this is where it comes into creating links. So you can double click here, right? This little icon's a span. So if you wrap that in a span, that means you basically just want to change that, and whatever styles you apply to will just apply to that. In addition to that, on a link standpoint, so you click on the link, that actually creates the link. And then of course, just like the old system, you just click right there, and that's where you'd add in the actual link itself. But one of the things that was really hard to do, I wouldn't say hard, it was just the concept was hard. Made that a little bit easier. So you have an image here. What if I want to make this an actual clickable image? That's where this link block comes in. So you drag your link block. And so obviously that's not good, right? Because I want this to be wrapped image. So I grab my image, I put my image in there. Now I go up one layer, and there's my link. So I just made my image linkable, right? Little things like that are just much easier to do, and you just got to play around with. But anything you want to make as an image standpoint, I would use this link block, and you just put it just right next to whatever element you want, and then drag your element into that element, which is a big move from the last CMS, because that right there would have broke everything, and you would have quit immediately on that. But the same concept on the layer, right? I'm on the image right now. I need to go up one layer to that href, the actual link, to get to it. You can hover over and click on it, but it's just easier to click up there as well. Video. So this is a little bit different than before because we had a widget for video and also iframe and custom code. Split those up. So now you have this. And again, this is where you come into the settings. And so you have your different sources, YouTube, throw your little ID in, do your settings. You have the no cookie YouTube. You also have the Vimeo that you can put in with your link and the different options that you have in there. And depending on your div and where you put in, this would already be responsive, but of course you can always resize, and then go into your mobile version, and you don't want, that to be that size on mobile or tablet. Now, when you come back, that's how quickly you can make your stuff responsive without having to know the classes and everything else that's associated with the site. You can do that right in here without knowing everything. But there are built-in classes that you can apply to make that responsive automatically on Bootstrap, if you're familiar with those. What else is here? The map, same thing, works the same way as the other one. Just click in it, settings, put in whatever you want as far as your address. And then, you have your zoom in options within here. And then you can change the satellite if you want. What else? Quote, that's pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to add multiple columns because there's actually preset columns I really like, especially the 50/50s. Those need to come in. So for instance, if you're going to do a 50/50 within this system, currently today, I would do one column, and then this column here, I would come in here and do width 1200. And then I would do my auto, where's my margin? My auto right. I'll put auto here. Oops, auto here. And now I have my centered one. And then in this side, inside here, then I would come in and drop in my 2-column at my left and right. And then of course I would take my image, and this is where it comes into that image side where it would be too big here. So you would want to resize this, right? Because you want it to be right in here. I would resize it with 100% width opposed to just doing that. So I don't have to worry about resizing it for mobile, because now on mobile, if I go to mobile, it's going to automatically, oh, no, I'm sorry, this is set to 1200. So in this case, I would need to I'm sorry, I'm designing from scratch. So in that case, it doesn't matter. So you come into your mobile version and then you would change your size for that div from 1200 to 600, right? And of course, if you wanted this to go under here, you would move this column to be 100%. Instead of 100 width, you would do 100%. Oh, that's already set. That's the image side of it. Anyways, you get my point. So now when I go back to mobile desktop, so way cooler, does give you the freedom of getting really creative with it. Concept of having the themes and the blocks and everything are there. Trying to speed this along, and I apologize. I'm already almost to 5 here, and I don't feel like I've covered too much. So again, these are going to grow. We're going to have all different types of ones coming in within here. So that's going to grow. The extras, so these are all our widgets. Shows you the countdown, the custom code. So again, this is helpful too if you know the Bootstrap thing, because there's a lot of little widgets, so you can just throw in whatever code you want, embed code, anything that you want in here, and that's going to show up wherever you put that. So of course you could drag that into this element here and have within the forms of that div, it shows up just fine. So that's custom code. The tooltip, you can, again, just play around with this. You click on that, you're going to have settings over here that you can change the position, the length, the value, those types of things. But what else? A tooltip, data forms. So data forms, this will go back to the conversion. I thought I converted everything within this old themes and new themes, but I know there's several that said, hey, my data form is not showing up as an option in the options section. If that's the case, all you have to do is drag on a new data form in the place of the data form you currently have, and then select your data form. So it is different than before, but it works the same way. For instance, if I want, let me just refresh this real quick. If I want, let's say a data form to show up here, I'm going to go ahead and grab this data form widget, throw it right there. Right above it, you're going to see a little thing or a little div called data forms. So that's different than before. You just click on it. What's also cool is this is free flow. So you can resize this however you want, which is awesome. And you can click on settings. This is where you see the same thing as the other platform. You can switch between whatever data form that you have within here. Of course, I would want to make that smaller, resize that based on the theme and whatever, position it however you want. But you can switch between each of your data forms within here that you swap out, and those are all the same anyways. But if you want to redo it, just delete yours and drag yours over. Again, you're not really, oops, I'm sorry. You're not redoing anything. It's already there. You just select your data form, just pull over the other widget here and replace it. So there's really nothing to it, but you won't be able to hover over and see that data form section with the old version if I missed your conversion. So again, it's real simple to swap that out. Jump on support if you need me to explain that even further on that. iframe, it'll be blank. Click on it, settings, type in your source right here, whatever you want, and that'll show up in that box. This automatically comes in for the right URL. This automatically comes in with the different sizes that you can do. So you can resize this as default. It makes it bigger, 4x3, 1x1. So if you want to install our meeting pages, I will be having a native meeting page, embed widget or extra widget that's in here coming, but you could actually embed yours by just using the iframe link and then throw yours in and resize it however you want. Okay, so blogs, same thing on the blog. So if you have a blog from previous and you're not seeing the blog feeds right here, just swap it out with the one that's new and go select that blog. So same thing, I bring my blog over here. If you have a blog set up, I click on settings. Now I don't have a blog set up in this account with the actual feed to do, but you'll see your feed here and then you have your options there. What else? Okay, so that's pretty much it on those components. So you have these blocks. Much like the old system where you had to click here and actually select these blocks, you just drag over. So if you want to delete all the blocks that are there and just move these around, build your own, whatever you want. So there's a little thing here. You can double click on your images, pull out. Right. Of course, you would want to resize that the size that it's telling you. So these, you can just go down the page and build out whatever you want from those blocks. That's the concept of the block system. The only limitation you have right now temporarily is that you only have footer, you don't have a header section as a block. So I will be adding that, so you'll be able to drag over your navigation and just really just start building from scratch. If I were you, if you want to do it that way, I would just delete all these, leave my navigation, and then go through and drag whatever I want over here. So that's that. Let me talk about the navigation editing. I know I have a video out there, but when you click on this link here, one thing that is going to change, right now, we only have the href option here. This will be a drop down to where you can override the href, but it will say custom, but it will have all your pages here automatically. So you can select your pages that you want and it'll build your link for you. The link is really simple. It's really just a page name, all lowercase. As a matter of fact, if you go out to your settings inside your pages, which I don't have a page, let me create a page real quick. I'll cover that real quick, actually. So I'll come back to the navigation. Let me add a page. So I'll skip these 3 tabs. And right here is your pages tab. You can create a nav group. Really all a nav group is a way, 1, to organize your pages, but 2, let's say you want your URL to actually be services/home improvement, home-improvement. That's where you want to create a nav group. If you're trying to control your navigation, it doesn't really have anything to do with building out a page. Nav groups are not pages. You can't edit anything. You can go in and make changes to the settings, such as the page name and the URL. But they're not actual pages where you go in and actually build. So in this case, if you wanted to create a nav group, you can create groups within groups or just name your group. And then when you create a group, now when you create a page, you have an option of selecting that. In this case, I'm just going to create a test page. Oops. So I'll take you right into the page. Again, you have to clone a page. If you don't want this page, just delete it all and start from scratch if you want to do that. But inside your pages, this is where you get, so there's additional settings for pages. You can embed special code just for your page itself. Obviously the SEO that you change on the page itself, but you also have that test page URL. So you'll see that it's test page. One thing about our system on the link, it's all relative path. So / name of the actual URL / oops, I'm putting that in the title. So you definitely don't want to do that. So right there is where you're going to put that. Again, I know having a dynamic already built navigation every time you add a page is ideal, and we're going to have a widget for that. But the freedom that you have here of building out your own entire navigation and design control that you have allows you to do this, especially overriding on the fly of what you want that URL to be, opposed to having to go create a page. Like what if you want to put a login link or something like that within the actual drop down of your dynamic page? Hard to do unless you go create a custom page, and now, it's just time consuming. In addition to that, you build this once within the platform, these global headers will show up on every single page that you have within the site itself. So all relative path, you can find the URL within your page right here, or if you just know any page name, spaces, dashes, any page name, it's all lowercase /. So on the navigation itself, so this is where it comes in helpful, clicking here. So if I were to duplicate this, oops, I deleted that. I don't want to delete it. This duplicate button right here, see how it dropped down below? And that's not what you want. If that happens, just click up and then duplicate again. And the reason why that's happening is it goes back to the fact that you can't actually see, even though the grid's there, you can't actually see there's a little wrapper around this navigation. So if you duplicate it, I'm already selected on it, and it goes below, that's because you're not on the right actual section or that div or that href, whatever, that wrapper, you're not on the right wrapper for it to go around. So if I click here and I want to duplicate this, see how I went below? I don't want that. I'm going to go up and hit duplicate, and now I can, right? So I just click on whatever, and then you have your actual href that you change, and it's just that / name of the page / the link on a relative. Of course, you can put your whole URL in there if you want, things like that, but you do have to build out your navigation still on this CMS. I will have a module that will be dynamic, but you have the freedom of doing that here. Global blocks. If you use our system out of the gates, our themes, all of them already come with a header global block and a footer global block. If you're building something from scratch and you want it to show up on every single page, when you select this actual, like the nav here, you can click on this icon right here, and this will pop up a block name. In this case, I would just call it header or whatever. When I add this block, which I already have one in there. So that's not going to work within there. I already have one in there. I'm going to go ahead and save this so you can see what I'm talking about. Inside these components, you have a section all the way down here called global header and global footer. The first time you save this system, if you're working off one of the themes, it'll automatically create your global header and footer. So if I come off of a page like this, that's blank, I can start with my header. I already have my header. I can start with my global footer, which in this case, my global footer was nothing within here. So you want it's all the way up here. You're going to have to put in your blocks before you put in global footer, right? So your navigation and everything that you build or do on a global block will show up in this section over here. So this is already built for you when you save it. But if you're building something from scratch and you're building out your navigation, you're going to want to wrap it with that global block. And you can do that by just clicking on this little icon here, name it. And then when you save it, it'll show up in this inventory over here that you can reuse anywhere you want. That's helpful for like internal CTAs, or if you have an internal navigation on the side menu that you want to use. So when you're building out your pages, you can pull from your own block inventory over here. Not sure if you use that, but everything that you start with has a header and footer within our platform, unless you're starting from blank. And then in that course, you have to create your own. What else here? Oh, the live code editor. So I'll go through this part of it. This is way better than before. If you've ever used it, what's more annoying than clicking on an element and realizing that you're not actually in that element, that you have to go scroll and look through all the code. This will help you understand, I guess, just more on the HTML side, because if you can learn a little bit of HTML and a little bit of CSS, you can become very dangerous, especially if you learn the import process. But this will help because you can click on anything and it'll automatically change. Now you'll notice that there's some different code that kind of shows up inside each div. When you save and you look at your code, actually strip all that stuff out. So you don't have that bloated code, but this gives us more control so we can actually apply things to it. But at any rate, when you click on this, you'll see everything change. Now, these styles over here, these are like your global styles that show up. You can, of course, override them here. No need. But if I were to apply a style here, so for instance, in this section here, if I wanted to change this to, let's say, just do pink. Okay. So when I come back into my code editor in this section, you'll see my colors right there. So that's really cool because it not only in this format, you saw the other one was like, provide all the CSS. Yes, we minify it when it actually goes out onto your site, but this gives you everything right here. So you can take a look at it and see it just to make you a little more comfortable with looking at code. Don't have to use it. But again, the next things I'm going to show you, the more you know, the better, just because you can become really dangerous, especially when I show you a little import on a site of what you can do in a few minutes. Let's see what's next. What would be, okay. So that's that. Next is the template editor. So this is the head script section. If you're familiar with importing sites, you had the editor down here, the head editor, and you had the scripts editor. I combined them, so you have top and bottom. You're not seeing anything here because I haven't added my own site. This actually only applies to what you put in. One thing, if you've heard about that data helper script, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to wrap anything here either. You can throw whatever you want in the head and whatever you want in the footer. Won't affect the builder, won't affect where you save, so you don't have to be conscious of any of that stuff. You can just throw it all in here and you're good to go. On an import process, I'll break down the HTML section that you're trying to look for. And yeah, it's pretty much easier here. Then you also have what I normally work off of, which is different than all of these. By the way, any change that you make in here, there's a little apply button. This is just when you apply, it changes here, but that's not saving it. You still have to save. So whatever you're changing here is just showing you what you're looking at. You do still have to save. The best thing to do is just save all your changes, click the save button. Don't get confused with the fact that this tab over here saves on its own. Raw code editor. So this is actually going to pull everything in between the body, remove all your scripts that you have in the head and script, and it's just the raw code that you can just free to go through and make updates and changes and hit apply. So this is, if you use the raw code editor, this is the one that most used if you're doing import processes and things like that. Still there. That's the raw code editor. And of course your pages. One thing that is different, we did have this little settings icon here that would take you into the settings of the page. That's moved over here under the Pages tab. And so you can click on settings and go through there to your settings, or delete your page, which actually deletes this time within here. So that is pretty much the rundown. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to chat, answer. I know there seems to be a lot of questions. Answer all those questions. And anybody who wants to hang out for a little bit longer, I'll show you how to import a site real quick. I'm actually trying to find the chat of the one who gave me an example that I was actually oh yeah, I found it. Cool. So I'm going to do this example real quick on the import process. Sorry, I know I throw up on everyone, and I probably should be better organized as far as how I present. So I'm going to go through these questions real quick. Yeah, so love to see it built from scratch. Hopefully I covered that. Again, you can come through here and play with this. One of the things I want to stress, I would use that Bootstrap theme. And when you come in here and you start bringing over your components, you have that same option of applying all the classes from Bootstrap. So as you go through building out, use those classes on the Bootstrap that are built in instead of using this, because of course, when you use this and you got to apply it to all. So as soon as you bring a div over, this div here, if I wanted to simply add the fluid to it, right? So now it's fluid, or I can do default. Remember earlier I was showing you the pad auto left, auto right, and the 1200 width. You can just come over here and apply default to one of your divs that you moved over. Now you have the Bootstrap already built here that's mobile friendly all the way across. So that's real cool. Again, your only limitation is that navigation, but if you start with the template with the navigation, delete everything else, and then go from there. Okay, so next, can you add an hour, a minute on the countdown? I need to add 15-minute countdown. Yeah, we can definitely, and more visual. So let me just look at that. Oh, you're talking about here on the settings, I assume, of just date. Gotcha. Definitely can do that. Thank you for the tip. Heads up, looks like the theme option can get hidden. Send me a screenshot of that if this is hidden, and you did. So I'll look at that. I appreciate that, Stephen. So yeah, if this is hidden on your size, maybe I didn't configure for every single browser, but I basically pulled this all the way up to 170%, and it's still there. Thanks for the screenshot. I'll take a look. Next. Booking calendar as well, definitely. The booking calendar widget that we have right now, you can use the embed. So if you want to use that component, you can iframe it in, but yes, definitely a widget for that. Much easier, yes, definitely. Can the video have embed captions for accessibility? Definitely can. We can have as many options as we want. So yes, we definitely can have that on there. It doesn't look like it's on there. Yeah, so sorry about the Bootstrap mentioning. Bootstrap is just a already built framework for designing websites. So look it up. It's pretty cool, but having these frameworks are much easier when you kind of start from scratch. The possible import data into a funnel from a spreadsheet or data form. Yes, so there's a video on how to import leads. And again, I'll happy to stay in after this to answer different questions outside the CMS. You can create your own blocks so we can share via user roles. That's where it's going to come in and get really interesting as far as building your templates, because you're going to have a templates section where you're going to come in and you're literally going to build out, you're going to pull your components, all of your different blocks here, create your thumbnails, upload your thumbnail, upload your HTML code, upload your CSS and your JavaScript links to it, create a thumbnail for your theme. And then now you're literally building as many themes as you want, which is going to get really interesting when we allow you to share across parent accounts and things like that. Definitely going in that direction as quickly as possible. How can you adjust the thumbnails for funnels or websites? And I assume you're talking about the thumbnails when you're creating the website. That's what I was going to go into. The settings of your website, you'll be able to add a thumbnail. So when they show up to your actual theme here, it'll show the actual thumbnail. Library and nav group use case. So use case on the nav group, I flew over that. So when you create, here, I'll just create a nav group real quick. Test. So when you create a page and you do this, my URL that I can put for SEO purposes or whatever, just your hierarchy and your sitemap, put test / test page as my URL, and that'll pull up. So use case would be services. You have 25 services and you want to group them under the services tab. Maybe you have product with all the modules of the software and then services and all your digital marketing services. You want to create those nav groups and create the pages underneath those nav groups. That way you have that link hierarchy, or at least can build a URL with that name in it, opposed to just using it as a page name as you link to it. It's better for SEO purposes, in my opinion, to have that. And of course, if you're going to build a page inside with services. Control F now works in search through raw code editor. I haven't tried that, but yes, I would definitely take a look. So I would assume here you do control find. Yep. So control F does work in here. So that's great. Does it support CS grid and Flexbox with full control? Yeah. So in here, matter of fact, depending on the theme, you already have all that in here. So you have all your different options. So you can control and override. Like if you're building divs on your own, starting from scratch and bringing over a div, you can control all the flex. You can apply flex and then control all that within that section here. Let's see. As far as other builders out there, I haven't used a whole lot of them recently, just because I've been doing our own thing. Definitely would love to see the difference between this and others, because now that we have this framework, we can do much more elaborate, great things with it. So love to see what it compares to these others out there. But yeah, that's any builder out there that's layer driven and you feel like you want to learn on that opposed to this, feel free. It's exactly how ours is built, is on that layer driven. Ask in chat, but do you think you can just demonstrate conditioning logic for tags like Facebook? Yeah, so appreciate that. I will do a training on that, but it's just the if tag. I need to explain that. You'll actually have to put the HTML code of the button for it to turn on, or you can do display none. So there's a lot of different ways, probably way over. I'll spend too much time explaining that. Can you add additional breakpoints? Yeah, so I mean, you could just, whatever breakpoints that you want on your column, assume that's what you're talking about. Version 1 parsing was hard, not because of the parsing itself, because it was really hard to define when to do the test and refresh. Oh, by the way, that's a great point. You don't have to worry about parsing anymore. So this system, we do it a little bit different on the back end, and when we parse out, I've yet, at all the themes that we've imported and I've tested on, I spent a significant amount of time working with all of the OWL carousel and all these other different ones in saving the system. And if you're not familiar with the import process, you have JavaScript that renders on the DOM when you can see it here to manipulate it. And when you save, that code was being saved in the database. So when you go to visit your site on the live version, a modal will already be popped up, or good example is the dark side theme. If you're in the dark side theme and you come in, and in previous videos, I'll explain this. When you scroll down, if you were to save on here, when you come back, your menu would already be like that. And you're like, what the heck? Why is it already dark and down? It's because when you saved, these components were being saved in the system. So when it loaded, it was already loaded, and as if you scroll down. We fixed all that's gone. So if you do come across where you need the asset manager, I've yet to have a case for it. So I hope that you will never have to use that again, because it was confusing for sure. So breakpoints. So yeah, so that's where it comes into this responsive right here. So you click on this little icon here. So for instance, let's say when I look at mobile, I want this to be my font. Where's my font size? Guys are killing me here. Font size. So let's just do 10px. So it's small there, but when I go back out here, it's not 10px. So you can do all this, whatever you change in here, as long as you change on this element and move your way up, any change here is going to change across, but any change that you do inside this tablet and mobile view will create all your breakpoints. So when you come over here to the CSS, you'll see it already creates your media queries, right? And then you can override it too. You can make it bigger or whatever that you want, opposed to what it is now. So yeah, so that's, looks like I went through all these questions. I'm going to move over real quick. Again, this You don't have to, if you're not planning on importing sites, feel free to jump off. I'll have this recording and come back. But I did want to show a few steps on importing a site. So very similar to previous. So this is an example that was sent over to me before this call about how I would do this. So if you haven't watched the import video, I'm going to do a better one. Right now, it's basically the same. So there's a little bit different in the sense that if you are not familiar with code, this is just going to be overwhelming, I would say. But there's a section within every website that starts with head and ends with head. And then every website, there's a close of a body. In this case, see how much code is in this thing? It's just WordPress blows my mind. There's a close of a body. Before the close of the body, there's all this weird code all the way up until, look at that, it's just absolutely ridiculous. I would not recommend importing this site, but I'll show you how easy it is. Right there, and then now that's actually HTML. So if you think about, that's your head, that's your scripts. So you would want to take your scripts and you would want to throw them in this section here. Oops, I'm sorry. The little template icon here. You would throw your scripts there. So you'd have all your scripts. Right? And then you would come back up here to your head. You don't need all this stuff. Matter of fact, most of the stuff we generate, but we'll go ahead and just, for the sake of this demo, I'll throw it in the head here. Of course, I'm going to delete that. And I am going to go ahead and just save this real quick. Oh, one thing to note on this import process for this. Hold on, sorry. Let me just remove this because on this theme itself, you're not going to want to, you want to use the import actual theme. So you don't want to use, so this, you don't want to start with Bootstrap or start with Darkside theme. You want to start with the actual blank import. So same thing, you would just go to that little section. You would go to head, scripts editor, or you could drop it in here, just like I did. The only thing you have to do at this case is you have to know our tags to wrap the head and the footer to parse it out automatically. But once you have it in, it's now controlled with this. There's only one issue with this. You haven't downloaded any of these assets. You know, all these little links here that are inside the system here, you would have to get all these assets. So if you're going to take a website that's existing out there on the internet, you would need all of these assets downloaded. There's tons of tools. If you have Word, Windows, it's called, what is it called? It's called WinHTTrack Track Website Copier. Put that in, it'll download all these assets for you. You would take these assets, you would throw them up in your asset manager. You would go into the code for each one of these sections and you would update the URL path or the relative path before loading it into your head and edit section of your script. So here and here. So that's the only additional step. And if you fast forward to one of those videos I have, I mean, it's pretty easy to do that. But now, you know, one step that I need to do on the import process, if you want to import this way, you would have to wrap it right above, below the head. So in your code here, and then right below the head, I would put a div, I'll put the ID, I would put head assets, that's it. And then I would close the head out. This is just ridiculous amount of code for this site. It says, yeah, I mean, you just, this is the whole reason why I want to throw up when I look at WordPress. Because look how simple that site is. There's no reason to have 9 million blocks of code for just a simple little website. So of course you're going to want to do this outside of, let me just make sure that's the top. In a better editor than this, if you're going to come in like, if you have this much code, but ID equals, as far as adding these. And then this one is just scripts And again, I will do an actual training video and actual video that you would come in here and look at. This is just playing around just to show you. And then right above the body. So you can also see too, like I took that code straight from their site. And there's all sorts of errors in this site. So this would definitely need a significant amount of stuff to clean up. So I would just import, same thing, hit save. But you would want to use the blank template within here. And of course, none of those assets within here are set up properly. So bad example, but it is really easy once you understand that's all I really have to do, and then download those assets within here. And of course, know what kind of theme you're choosing to bring this into this platform, because you're not going to want to bring crap into the platform just to be the crap that it is already, right? You want to clean it up. So hope that was just a better understanding of the import process. It's not, again, I need to do a training on it in an actual course step by step, but it's really 3 steps. Your hardest step is going to be downloading all the assets. If you buy a theme off ThemeForce, they already come with all the assets, and the code of the site in between the head and above the body of the clothes already have the relative path set. The only addition that you need to do when you load it to the asset manager is grab your folder path and just put it in between before each of those folder paths on the actual assets. And that's it. And then just copy the head section, throw it into the head section here, copy your script section, throw it in here, go ahead and save it. And then now you can click on this section here and throw in all of your code between the open of the body and close of the body, minus the scripts, right? You don't want to put the scripts in there. And that's it. And then you have a site imported. It's really simple, honestly. If you just, I guess the biggest struggle is getting over the fact that looking at this can just make you throw up. I've coded my whole life and this is disgusting. So definitely go after something from ThemeForce and work off of that or something like that. Can you link chat asset grabber? You mentioned, okay, yep. So appreciate that, Stephen. Anything else I missed here? Yeah, so version control, there is version control, by the way. If you ever create something, it's not live yet, but there is version control built in already on the templates section and funnels. So if you ever get in a situation where you completely screwed up and you need it back, I can restore it at any moment, and eventually you'll have a restore section to version control. That'll be on the template section first and then on the funnel section. So that's coming. It already exists for funnels here. As many, we actually save, unfortunately, right now, every version. So that's growing pretty quickly. Yeah, so I definitely need a step-by-step training, but I think the biggest thing here, if you're not familiar with looking at HTML code, you're going to look for the head and you're going to look for the close of the head. The biggest mistake everyone has is they throw all the code into the old builder's raw code editor. And you definitely don't want to do that. This is that raw code editor 2 import process. You're going to need those wrappers that I talked about if you're going to use that. The easiest way possible is there's a little template icon. Grab what's in between the head, open of the head, close of the head. Grab that, throw it in this section, go to the end of the body, and you'll see all this JavaScript code. Hopefully you won't. It'll just be a few files up until you get to the HTML section, which is the div or section or footer or whatever. Grab that, throw that into the script section of the site, wherever I'm at, and save. Now go to the raw code editor and only grab the HTML in between. And that is literally it. You can take any site anywhere that renders on the browser and do that. Where you have your biggest challenge is understanding where your assets need to go and how to link them. So in this case, I would download this asset. I would upload it to my asset manager. This file name may be the same, but my folder may be different. But if I'm going to do the website scraper, it's going to download this WordPress folder, Lightspeed CSS in this version. And I'm going to create a folder called themes or whatever, or clients or whatever here by creating a new folder, and then go into that folder, click the upload, and drag those folders that you get from copying the site or ThemeForce or whatever, then go back and you'll see your path to your image. And then so in your code here, when you load up on the scripts section, so let me just grab a few of these lines here in case this was, so like in most websites, non-WordPress, this is about as much you would have in the header. So my path would be this path plus the folders that I uploaded, but I would come over here and I would just swap this out. If I copy this site, it'll give me everything WordPress and beyond. I just remove that URL and do that. And so as long as you have it like that and you understand that, you literally can import anything you want here. Now without having to worry about the parser and everything else. Pretty cool. And then everything else works with it. So, all your little widgets, you explain to your client, like client come in here and make changes, they come in and double click, change. Of course, this image is not showing up because it's your relative path's not right, but you can swap out your images. If I want to add my little data form over here, swap it out whatever data form I want, move it around, put it wherever I want. Again, it's easier for me to say that it's easy, but I'm telling you, if you've had any success with the old builder, this one is light years from that. So if your template files are SCSS, give me 10 minutes after this call, because I think you did reach out to me and I didn't accomplish that. I just need to turn it on permission wise. The only file that we will not accept is PHP. That's it, just for security purposes. So if you have a file that you're trying to upload and won't upload, just let me know and I'll add it to the approval list. Not sure why those are not allowed, but I will do that immediately after this call. So yeah, Ali, I appreciate your patience with that. I thought we covered every single one of those domains, but honestly, on a forwarding standpoint on a domain, you're going to have issues with that. For us, creating a site that's just a forwarder, I almost want to create a feature where you can do your own forwarder if you want. Because if you don't host with us, you just keep it at your DNS provider and just set up a redirect, opposed to actually installing SSL on our side of it and then pointing to us with that redirect. Because if it's already pointing to us, there's an issue there. But yeah, if you're still having issues with that, we need to definitely look into what's going on with your forwarders that you have on your other domains. Okay, importer is the question in the layout, importing it, finding my own assets to make the site mine. Would I be able to do this with the import feature? Yeah, so absolutely. To me, importing WordPress themes, or if you're not extremely familiar with code, or at least understand, there's a lot of stuff in here that's just, you'll end up importing everything and bringing it over and there's just no point to it. There's 90% of this code here you don't even need. And just understanding what you need and don't need, like all this oxygen cache and all this stuff over here with just the manifest XMLs and all this stuff, you don't need any of that stuff to bring over. But yeah, as long as you can understand what you need to grab, which is just between the head, download those assets, load them up in the asset manager, link to it, grab what's in between the body as far as the code wise, HTML, throw it in, you can literally import anything you want. When does the login logo change? Whenever you change it, by the way, feel free to ask any questions that are outside of here. So if you come over here to settings and domains and go into your domain, so you would add your domain. I'll just explain this a little bit real quick, because there's been two that asked me today already on this. If you're trying to set up like a subdomain or app.whatever.domain.com, I know it's scary to think that, oh, I'm going to put my whole domain in here and now I'm going to lose what I already have that's existing. That's not the case. All this is when we set up SSL for your domain, there's an authentication process of that domain that it's going to get approved for. If you don't use the root domain and you put in HTTP and all this other stuff, you'll get an error. But using the root domain does not mean that we're going to move your entire domain over. What we set up are called wildcard A records. And all that means is that in your DNS record, you don't have the word login or the word app or sign up or email, whatever you may have, www, whatever subdomain you have in your DNS. If you don't have it named in your DNS, all that traffic points to us. Why that's beneficial is when you want to set up a subdomain for your login, now you want to go and create previews. So to add a site, so for instance, if I'm done with this site and I want to publish it, you would come into your settings, click on branding, and you just type in your domain here. If you don't have a domain installed on our system, this doesn't do anything. But what's great about it, when you do have your domain installed, you can type any subdomain you want in here. So you can have previews for every single one of your clients. Maybe you want to do subdomains for like agent-based sites or things like that. So when you install your domain, this A record here, don't be afraid of it. It's literally all it's doing is anything that you don't have in your DNS, it's going to go to us. And then our router will pick up that traffic and know that, hey, this subdomain that you put app.yourdomain.com for your branding in your backend, that'll point and pull up the site itself. And so once you have your domain installed, click Activate SSL, that'll run through it. You would come over here to branding, system branding, and then drop in your domain right here. And then when you go to that domain, it'll show your logo as opposed to our logos. Let's see, on the third, there's no value on the third CNAME. Where is that? I apologize. So setting void. Oh, what am I doing? Jesus. Domains. Oh, are you talking about this one on the @ symbol? So that's just your @ symbol. In that case, that would be your domain name on Namecheap. So if you can't use @ symbol, it'd just be your domain name. By the way, this third record is if you want to move everything over to us, by the way. So don't set this up if you want the domain to be 100% pointed to us. These first two records, this is for SSL, this is for subdomains, this is for your main domain. And depending on what Namecheap, whatever, may have the domain name as the @ record. Like GoDaddy is the @ record. Again, you can put the domain name or the @ record in GoDaddy and it doesn't matter, but if you can't put the @ record, then that's fine. So no video on the workflows yet. I'm going to be doing crazy videos and really boosting up a lot of different things on the video standpoint, especially on my YouTube channel. In addition to this, I feel like the builder in the workflows is like, put us in a whole new ball game. So I'm pretty excited about that. So yeah, workflows videos will be coming. So if I missed any of your questions, feel free to type them back in. Good question on the more website templates. They're going to start flying out. I know I said this before, but honestly, like the ability for us to create themes is going to be the same way that you'll be able to create themes globally. So we're basically adding themes with our database driven for it, and we're going to turn that on for users. So this is going to go very quickly with the themes that we can drive out or build out. So I'm super, super excited about the new CMS because that means we can have more themes. So not Google compliant yet. We are unfortunately going out of the gate with Ligna first instead of Samsol. Samsol is once again not approved for that. So we have to do the Ligna side, which is fine because there's also another option that you can do to keep your client from seeing us on the authentication process for that. So I'll discuss that of the alternative plan that we're doing on that. In the builder, changed some DFs, got unmapped. You showed, oh, I'm sorry. So data forms, you and your acronyms with my own stuff. I got to get used to my own acronyms for my own tech here. So I don't know if you saw it in the earlier part of the video, but when you go into the actual site and you're not seeing, oops, let me go into this example because I know you're using the dark side theme. So when you come over here and you try to hover over and you're not seeing the little data form thing here, just like this, just delete this or drag this in into there. Go ahead and delete that. Oh, I got to actually select it. Let me select that. And then you'll see it there. And then just go back and select it and then resave. That way you can swap it out. I thought I covered everybody, but it just didn't convert in some people as far as their old sites on the data forms. But yeah, just go right underneath it, drag over a data form, delete that one, reselect, and just save. Can you import from sitejet.io? If you can see it on the browser, you can import it. There's some React websites that you have a problem with, but other than that, I've not come across a site that I can't import. Some are way harder than others, but definitely capable of doing it. Again, if you just pull what's in between the head and you pull what's above the close of the body for your scripts, put that in the head section, put that in the script section, make sure you have those assets loaded up in the asset manager and linked. Throw the code in between the close of the body and open of the body, of course, above the script section, and boom, you got that theme in there. It sounds easy, and it is, but if you've never done it before, it can be confusing for sure. when you have incoming and outgoing webhooks. So we do have a webhook, by the way, in the workflows section. That's for outgoing, of course. So the API documentation, Chris, who's just unbelievably awesome, did so much on the documentation. And he's probably like, why do I do anything for this guy? He didn't even put it in our back end. I need to add that documentation for you to do whatever you need to do on that. He's also set up a Pabbly integration. I know he's working on a Zapier integration. The setup of those, honestly, once you go through it and look at what we got on the documentation, you can set those up. On the webhook option, I have Facebook. That's like top priority for me as far as putting a Facebook webhook that you can pull leads from Facebook business pages. That same webhook you can use back and forth on both of those systems. And again, I just need to get that documentation for you to do that. So we have that. But in the workflows, I don't know if you saw that, but in the workflows, you can also send a webhook as one of your stages out to any webhook that you have. And that'll post all of the, not only lead data, but also post all of the custom fields that you push out. Okay, so yeah, you would definitely have to play with it. It's if you've worked on the other one, this is like 1,000 times better within it. You just got to understand, just notice that every layer that you click on, you can manipulate. If you're on a layer that you don't know, there's a little up icon there to go to your layer. And you also have this little layer section that you can go in and find what you're trying to edit or change. Double click, highlight, whatever. You can change everything within there. So question about having data from Facebook go to 2 different CRMs. Yeah, essentially you could. If Facebook comes in and you map that to a data form, and then that data form goes out to a webhook to another CRM, essentially you could probably do that. And also if you set up the API on another service, you can have the Facebook lead go in there and then push out two different leads. But yeah, definitely. We need a dedicated page for appointments. Let me see. I can not delete that. Okay, that you're just talking about all different appointment side of it. The other one worked well. It was just hard coded for non-coders. Appreciate it, Ali. Ross. So yeah, I definitely need to update that roadmap. I'm glad everything's in there because everything is just sitting there lingering on a lot of the updates that needed to go out before the end of the year. Yeah, it was just absolutely crazy. It was probably, I don't know, overconfident that I was going to complete a lot of stuff. You throw this thing in here, I just got too excited that we could actually finish this before the end of the year. And unfortunately, this took a lot of my time just because a lot of this, the way I built things is built into this thing. So that put a lot of my QAing on hold to get this out. So I'm definitely going big time with that. So yes, I need to do that. So great question on the module or this builder being used to other modules. This is going to be the email builder. This is replacing the blog builder. This is also going to be the backend builder. So one thing I don't cover on a lot of my videos, which a lot have asked, when you build pages back here, so for instance, when you build a site in our system, if you, let's say on the homepage, you have it blank and you create internal pages, no one knows those pages exist unless you let them know they exist, right? If you go to the homepage of your domain or a subdomain. So you could use this builder for the backend. So when you come in here to system and pages and you create a page, when you come into your page, you have this option of iframing your site in. And a lot have asked, could you use the backend page builder or put that page builder in this backend for the membership side of it? You could actually use it today by just iframing it in and then apply role access to have access to that. So if you want to build out a membership site, you can build it in the funnel section, have your homepage like your sales page of it, right? And you just don't link out to any of the internal pages, the URL to the internal pages, and then you can iframe them into your site. And so it looks fluid. So when you come into even the blog standpoint, when you come into the page, everything is fluid within the platform. So you could build out your entire site and have it all as internal pages and then hook it up here as your backend page, have a subscription for them to come in and actually access that. And now you have a whole dedicated site on the backend. So yes, and then also on the proposal builder. So right now it's just an invoice thing that goes out. and just creates a little bit of urgency. But the builder to create a little web personalized URL that they go out to, and it has the components and drag and drop things. So yes, definitely. So what's the build time for a complete system designed and implemented by Ligna? So it depends. The easiest way to get anything built is to go to ThemeForce, go anywhere and get a theme that's already existing. That is the best way of doing it, because you're going to get all those components that you can drag and drop and use for whatever other sites that you want to build in the future. So it doesn't take long when it comes into that standpoint. As far as like setting up every ins and outs of the system, I think I'll let everybody know this. If you don't have email already written, you don't have, what you want for your workflows kind of created, those things linger until you have those. So definitely going to want those, because we'll set all those up, of course, but we don't write your sales material. If you're not using Chat GPT or whatever, I can't remember, Chat TDB or whatever, you should write your sales material with that for sure. So next, don't forget clone feature for blogs. So yes, definitely a clone feature for blog. Absolutely. When someone books appointment, too easy to lose track of them. When flow track, keeping track of them. Yeah, so definitely need to have a better booking side of it for sure on that side, because they do show up in all of your task section. That's where that new sales feed shows up, which I can't wait to release that. That's going to be awesome. Live chat for code embed. So if you want to embed chat onto your site, so if you have a chat service, which by the way, in the roadmap, we have not only a workspace collaboration chat that's going to follow you around here that you can communicate with internal team members, but that's also tied to your external chat for your sites that you have on the system. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I wasn't planning on building that, but that's moving along really quickly. I'm really impressed with that, how that's coming out. But if you want to embed chat onto your site, you can actually embed into the back end system. You come into your branding, you can throw your chat widget here, because our chat widget doesn't show up for your users. It only shows up for you. So if you put your chat widget in here, this will show up in the back end of all of your users' accounts, and you can provide support on that side of it. And then same thing on the website. So if you go into your website, you can go into your settings. You could also go in that way. And you can embed it here or embed it in the script setter. So you can throw into this section head, begin, in a body, however you want. Yeah, so Facebook chat on your back end, you definitely can do that. That's awesome. Will there be a directory thing? That's so funny. So in the past life, I had a directory called 6Cube. That directory was it was a massive directory. It was like the best SEO directory. Really, it was awesome. And that was one of my things I have out here as far as creating directory that's not on the roadmap. And I know Ross asked me to put all this stuff on there. You're going to be able to create actual directories. So when you bring in users, like business users, those won't be counted as users. They come in as little business listing clients. So we can put in their business information. They can customize whatever they need inside the actual like module for a directory. Then you can wrap whatever design you want around it. So it's a lead gen aspect of bringing in businesses, creating niche networks, which is going to be really awesome. Yeah, so Chat GPT will provide really good, clean HTML code for sure, but not based on a particular URL, because it stops after 2021. But if you want them to write, hey, especially Bootstrap. So if you say, hey, I want to navigate, I want the code for navigation for Bootstrap, and I will hear my navigation, it will definitely spit out your navigation element. And then inside your website, you would come over here, and let's say it's on a blank canvas. You would come over here and grab your custom code for Bootstrap, copy it from Chat GPT. I don't know why it's so hard for me to say that. Copy it, throw it in here, and hit save. You have great code, so you can definitely do that. I would absolutely do that. That's a great idea, actually. So the LMS module. So think of our LMS module as, I want to train my sales team. I want to train, if you've gone through my courses, that's the mindset of our LMS. Of course, that needs to grow to where you can bring those types of users in specifically just for one-off courses. And again, the whole focus for 2023 is for us to go through and make every single one of these modules just kick ass. Started with a CMS here. Obviously more events, more actions, subscriptions, obviously from one time to multiple. We have all those things. So we're definitely going through each one of those in addition to the user profiles, everything we have on the roadmap, definitely. But as far as the LMS side of it, think of it as a just like ours. That's it's the only limitation you have right now is that a lot of these LMS have a ton of features. But as far as getting someone through a process of learning, quite frankly, it hasn't been easy to learn Ligna. And ever since the courses came out, I would say 60% have a really good time going through the courses. The rest just need some other additional guidance because we're missing courses here and there for different modules. But this will work really well for you if you're just bringing people in to learn something and you want to put them behind a subscription or a gate. And of course, you create the funnel for it. But all the other stuff, all the cool stuff that everyone has on LMS systems, we're definitely going to spend a lot of time on that because I think what we have is a great starting point. So workflows should be rolling out every single day on events. I know we were getting hot there at the end of the year with all the different events that were coming through. The CMS I felt was going to take the front to everything, and that unfortunately needed all of my time to work through it. Just because the logic is extremely important, especially because our dev team doesn't know why I do things. They just go through it to make it work. So I had to spend a lot of time on that. So we're definitely kicking back off on the workflows. I have so many workflow events and actions that need to be implemented. So you'll start seeing a lot of that. So the best templates to import are HTML or Bootstrap, not PHP or WordPress. So WordPress are fine to import if you understand what you don't need. The problem with WordPress sites, forget about the PHP. So if you went to go buy a theme from ThemeForest and you accidentally bought the WordPress theme, that's no problem because if you just go into the WordPress content folder and grab what's in there, you'll see all the CSS, JavaScript folders. Just pull those folders and load that up. That's all you need. Then go back out to that theme that you bought it from and do view source and grab the code from each of the pages if you want to do it that way. But I definitely don't want to buy any WordPress themes if you don't know that little element of it. And if you're importing a site from a client, we have a lot of clients that want the WordPress site imported in our platform. Most of the time we tell them we might as well just rebuild this just because you get so much ridiculous code in here. And it takes us a long time to figure out what files are needed, especially if they design it themselves on Elementor. If you see how Elementor's coded, it's disgusting. But again, it's not, you can definitely do it. It's just if you don't have a lot of experience in that, you go out to ThemeForest, and I'll just show you real quick what a really nice, I would come in here to HTML and I would search Bootstrap. And you don't even have to search Bootstrap. I just Bootstrap. I would go to, these are all back in, trying to get to the HTML client works. Let me just go to corporate. So here's a good one, just a good example. So you come over here and I do frames. So this is like, how easy is that? You don't even need all that. You just need the link. You just need that. That's all you need. Then you're going to download, they're going to give you this assets folder. So for, there's 27 different sites in here. So if I go into this layout, this exact site right here comes in here with all the different code blocks and different building templates and everything for $14. I grab this, I take my asset folder that I download with, I throw that up in my asset manager. Remember the relative path. I have like theme name, theme 1, theme 2, whatever you want to do for your organization purposes. But after that, it'll be assets and whatever you uploaded from there. And if I go all the way down here to the bottom, look how clean that is. It's 2 little scripts. I grab that. I don't even need to download that. Matter of fact, actually I do because they're putting that in there. But anyways, they'll have this in your assets folder. You're just going to grab those 2. And then instead of it being ./assets, it would be users /U0974 / whatever folder you put it in, and you replace that. And that's it. Then you take this, because again, I'm above the close of the body, and you take this and keep going till the open of the body, which is awesome because there's tons of different options in here. And you just grab that, and you copy and throw that in. And your whole site is done. You got it in, and now you have all these different options that you can use. Now, of course, what you don't have is the little blocks on the side. That's where our new iteration of the Beam engine is going to be really awesome, because all these little blocks, what you would do is inside each of these pages, you come in and you would have the HTML code and you just do it. Like this section right here, I would just copy out our HTML, throw that into the box that shows the code for that block. Then I would take my little screen capture, copy that, save it. Now you have all these little blocks over here you can drag over. That's basically all that is, right? And so that's the code that's in there. So it's not hard. I would go through ThemeForce is my favorite. I've been with them for forever on themes. They're just really good code that you can use, and it's great within it. But it's really simple. You'll see the difference. WordPress is like between this is what's controlling my head, and then you get into WordPress. No wonder anybody can't figure anything out. Look at all that stuff. It's ridiculous. Can you use an RSS feed to update the blog on our site? We do have an RSS feed that you can give somebody else, but the RSS feed to actually import into the site. So I do have an importer for WordPress if you're trying to migrate from WordPress. So when our clients migrate out for WordPress into our platform, we will import. I have an importer that basically I run on the back end that goes through. That'd be pretty cool to offer, but you're basically talking about having an RSS feed that just automatically creates the post for you in the front end. Never thought about doing it that way, but we can definitely do that. Can there be a platform-wide exchange for website? So that's what we were talking about, excuse me. That's what we were talking about on the marketplace side of it. Once we have the sharing capabilities, others have asked about having a code that you can share with somebody. I like the idea of having a marketplace where you could go in and preview their site and activate it directly in your backend, and whoever built the site has options of selling one time or constant updates or whatever they want to do, or free. And then that way you can share them with other parent accounts and things like that. So that's definitely the direction we're going, because once you can get over this, I would say, learning curve of understanding just this little area right here and then in between the body. And then also know, by the way, it's not just that. There's also the images, but you'll see is, ./assets. Well, dot is what you're going to replace, and the / you're going to replace with your relative path. So you do have to go through all of this, which, by the way, you can just open up your text editor and grab that and do Control F or Control H if you're on Windows and mass replace the entire code before you do it. And then you can just go in there and do that. So there's ways to make it really easy and quick for that. And once you get it in, then now you're using the builder, coming in and making your changes and overrides or whatever you want within the platform. So how does it work with screen readers and accessibility issues? So depending on the theme, all this stuff determines with your HTML code. So if you're buying a theme that already has all that in there, that's a theme-driven HTML layer. Now, some of our stuff, like our data forms and our widgets for our blog feed and things like that, of course, we would need to update that because it's like widgets that are coming in. But everything inside the builder itself, when you're putting in your own HTML code, of course, you got to add that stuff in there. Or in most cases, a lot of these themes already have that in there. Yep. So if I missed anything, please let me know. I know we're now going on 2 hours, so I appreciate as many of you that stuck it out with me. And yeah, I'm sorry we got off to a little rocky start there to get this going, but I appreciate everyone's time. I'm looking forward to the new year. I'm looking forward to all the stuff that we can start pushing out. I will definitely readjust the roadmap and go through that. There are some things, like I mentioned, turning in the templating system that are not on there. So I'll go through and see what things that are on that are not on that I can definitely put in. What is missing on workflows? So what is missing on workflows is simply more events and actions. So Ross just mentioned about a missed call option right now. So the way the missed call works, what's interesting, why that one's a little bit different, is that we don't really know if it's a missed call or not. Right? We don't know that you didn't pick up unless it triggers voicemail. So it's difficult in some regard on the missed call side of it. So if it comes to voicemail prompt is the way we're doing it, but it's almost like figuring out a way, where am I even going? What am I doing here? So inside templates and workflows, there's an option here for when you create a workflow, voice. Voicemail is received. So it will be missed call, but it's when your voicemail triggers. So if they hang up before the voicemail, I'm still working on how we're going to do that, because there's not, it's just the maybe the time of the second or whatever. So it's voicemail is received. And then this week I'll have the one that missed call essentially is if voicemail picks up and they don't leave a voicemail, then you can trigger an SMS without it. But right now you can trigger an SMS if they actually leave you a voicemail opposed to them not leaving a voicemail. And so what's missing from workflows, just more events. So when you go into the actual workflow itself, you have all these different options here, depending on whatever event that you have set up. And this is just growing and growing. And so once you understand how to set up workflows, I would say almost every day this week, moving forward, we have new workflows that are coming, a lot of really good ones, especially the triggering. We rolled out the data form, but having the different logic for the data form. So I do like that one. How about SEO? So SEO standpoint to me, and I've been doing this a long time, and I know I hurt a lot of SEO people's feelings, but really SEO is all about the content and the optimization of your meta structure. So meta structure for SEO in our platform, SEO tab is giving you meta title and meta description. Of course, getting creative with each of those. And then of course, adding any additional stuff that you want in your head that you like to do. But in my case, I've been doing this a long time. Good site titles, good site descriptions, every single page properly titled. When I go into the site itself, I'm going to want to put an alt tag for every single image, every single link. I'm going to have a title. I'm going to make sure my internal linking is set up in a good way, from my footer links to my navigation to whatever internal pages. Just make sure my internal links are working really well. My content is good. I have enough above the fold. Just that on-page optimization that you would normally control. It's just going through and making sure you have that enough of that content, and everything else after that is backlinks, right? And your social media aspect of it, just giving you validation and your local citations. That repeated over and over. So this isn't any bit going to analyze your site and give you 7,000 reasons why you need to rank on the first page of Google. A lot of that stuff is just complete overkill. Great tools to find out what keywords you need to rank for and what content you need to create. But other than optimizing your title and your description, there's nothing built in here to explain how you need to build your title and how you build your description. But to me, it's all about the content, making sure you optimize just your images, your internal links, and your titles of those links. And then what you do off page, of course, your meta structure that you set up. So when will the IVR be revamped? So the IVR absolutely needs to be revamped, especially with the options of doing different things if they press one, send a workflow. Right. So that's in the works, 100% important for us to get on that side of it. On the call functionality, as far as like the round robin, I know we have live transfer going. So there's just a lot that needs to be put onto that IVR. The IVR side of it, it is really, really simple. When you come in and build out your voice side and you create an IVR, when you create your tree, so you have your main greeting, press 1 for sales, press 2 for support. When you create your tree, you're going to choose whatever line that's here. Now, these are internal lines. So if you want someone to press 1 and then you're going to add your tree digit, and by the way, there's a video back there in the Knowledge Base Center if you search IVR that explains this. But if you want this line to like forward to another line, you got to set up a forwarding line and then select that line. And then when they press 1, it'll go to that line. But this is all this is really is right now is you press 1, press 2, press 3, press 4, press 5, go to whatever line you have in the system within that IVR. So very simple. We are just about done with the ability to press 1 and trigger a workflow. Of course, that'll be phone number based driven, right, when they do that. But there's also a lead lookup based on that phone number too. So if you have someone coming back into customer support, there's a lot of good things with that. The workflow for SMS for voicemail, when I test it, if someone responds to the auto SMS, it keeps repeating the same auto message. How can I only send it only once? So interesting. So you have them when they reply to the SMS. I would have to look at your example and your setup, Carolyn. That doesn't make sense to me, but we can definitely take a look at that. Can you change it to where it only rings X amount of times, and then if it triggers X +1, call goes to voicemail? Yes, we can do that. Do we include image iframe lazy loading? Does it also offer conversion? So not only optimize images yet, you can of course optimize those and load those up. When you load up to our images, this is the raw image. So same thing with video. If you want to optimize your stuff prior to that and load it up, you certainly can. But on the lazy loading, depends on the theme. If you have a theme for it, absolutely. I don't have a widget specifically for that, but if you have a theme that you're importing that has that feature functionality as far as how they have it set up, absolutely. Within that, I think we have several that do that already in there, or not several. We have only several, a handful of themes, but one of them, I think the dark side does that. Also, the email module, when will that begin to revamp? So we're already in the process of that. We rolled out the Cadence stat tracker, which is pretty cool. That's going to obviously evolve to all the stats in the Cadence side of it. And then the ability to trigger based on batches. So we're working on that. Again, all these modules are all part of that within it. What is support turnaround time? So it depends. I have a small team. However, that team, my junior developers, for this month, they're transitioning into heading up the support channel on chat, which is great because having reps who just, make you feel good that, hey, there's actually somebody there, don't really solve any problems. And it was falling on my shoulders and the dev team shoulders to answer the questions. I like the aspect of it, of me being there and being able to respond, but obviously that's not scalable, although I've been able to handle a lot of that more recently than the past. But that's the idea. My junior developers are going to be pulled into the frontline support on chat. The ticketing system, again, the ticketing system was really just designed for you to use. I know a lot of people use it and we still get in there with it. The easiest way for support is to go on the chat side. Just click on this little icon right here and chat. Facebook, what's great is there's a lot of great questions on Facebook right now waiting for me to respond, which will help a lot of people. So those are great. That's a great way of getting things answered, especially with anybody in the community that can answer it. But definitely chat support is the best way to get support. As far as turnaround time, my team works from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, minus holidays. I work all the time. If it's an emergency, in most cases, it's going to happen right away. So chat is not responding in 2 days. Any reason why? So definitely holidays. Depends on when you did that. If you went over the weekend, our entire team was off yesterday, including myself, and this weekend, obviously. So if you posted something in there and it's been 2 days, you'll just put it this way. When I get off of this video, I'll get on, or this call, I'll get on and hunt down your chat. But just know we're going through every single one of them, and don't feel like you're bugging anybody. Just respond again to the same chat. That puts you back up the top. So that's one thing to note. If you're not getting a response, just go and say hello one more time in the same chat, though, because if you do it in a new chat, then we don't have the history of the old chat. That puts you back at the top. And then unfortunately, if you're assigned to me, you get put in my inbox, and that's probably the worst place to be. Okay. Any other questions? Again, I'm happy to stay on as long as you want. Thank you. Again, really happy where we're at. I know it's everything that we have in the roadmap is super important to us. And I know it's super important. Oh, I missed that. So multi-party calls. Yes. And so I almost don't like the way we have it, which I'm going to release it this way anyways. But the multi-party calls is almost like a conference. So it's going to call two parties and then they connect. And if you're on the call with somebody, you'll call the other part and then merge over. So it does work that way. But it's almost like a conference on that side of it. I'm not 100% happy with it, but it will solve that. And so we do have that almost ready to go for multi-calls, but not 100% happy with the way that is. What's the best way and place to create your own classes for the funnel builder? So it's great section. So where I would put that, and I had the advanced CSS section or the style tab. I may end up adding that if, even though it's just adding the style itself tag within here. But if you do it within here, which is okay, you can apply it in here and save it and it'll show up. Even though this is pulling in like your global, that's constantly global, and then just what's associated with this actual div that you're clicking in. So in my opinion, I would put it here when you click on the little templates section here. I would just put in style and then put all my classes here. We did have in the old builder a style editor, and that was, I like that, but then I started looking at how much stuff was over here. So I may have to re-implement that instead of having to type that in, but that's basically all that was. That style editor was this. And you would put in between here and it would show up in the head of your site. So if you want to do the same thing, you can just do that and then put that in there. Okay, perfect. I like that. We can definitely do that. I did like it. I only got rid of it just because of the amount of room here, but it's super easy to add back in. So I can definitely add that. In the meantime, just throw that style in your head editor and just put it there and you can do it here. Or again, like I said, you can do it in this section. It's just, again, this changes based on what you click on within there. So blogs, where can you find blogs? So when you create a website, and I might as well just show you this because it's going to work the same way, except you won't have to do this step. When you create your first blog, so if I create test blog, you're going to assign it to a website. You're going to put in your folder. Content syndication, if you haven't watched the video on that, you can actually push content out to a bunch of different blogs with tags and things like that. Again, if you're afraid of duplicate content, it's not really that big of a deal if you have the optimization side of it, but it is the same post going out across there. So just note that. Hit add. You're going to go into that blog. You can get to the builder right here, clicking on the builder, or when you go into it, you click over here. And when you go into your builder, this is the old one, this is the old builder, but it's going to work the same way. So you have this already existing tags and kind of sample stuff here. So if you built your own custom blog with us, you'll know what this is. But basically, you're just going to want to hit your blog header setup just right there. You're going to click this, which you won't do. You won't have to do this in the previous one, but you're going to come over here and then click on your, your global header. Then you're going to save it. And basically any post that you do here is going to show up and then on your domain. That's it. That's all you have to do to set up a blog. But the new builder, you don't have to do that. I'm actually doing all these steps for you. It's going to pull in your global header and your global footer. It's going to put this in there automatically. So you don't have to come in and hit save. But yeah, if you watch that blog video set up, it's pretty easy to set up the blog. But once you have your blog set up, then you have just every other blogging platform out there. Go in, add your image, throw in your content, schedule your post out, your tags, your SEO stuff, your author URL, stuff like that. And that's how you set it up. Okay, so as far as the time frame for limiting sub accounts, that's like big time priority for me right now. That's coming as sooner than later, especially because of all the workflows that are set out and everything that's going out. It's time to get that done. And so it's been in QA for a long time. Right now, I need to go through and just ensure like the calculations are correct, because right now, because you can send external SMTP, internal SMTP, options there. There's some little things there for cadences that you're being counted for emails when you shouldn't be counted for emails on the internal SMTP. So just making sure all that stuff is just rock solid. Then I'll release it. You'll be able to do limits on parent accounts in all. So basically all parent accounts you'll have access to in whole, and then individual parent accounts. So you may have a parent account that you specifically want to give more limits or something like that. And then in addition to that, you have the role-based permissions that you'll be able to set up. So that is coming sooner than later. Hopefully I can get that out by the end of next week for sure. Community generated tutorials for sure. I am working through clearing my plate. My biggest goal, honestly, is just to be directing traffic and making videos and hanging out with the community. That's really all I want to be doing. Unfortunately, I've had to put my hands in a lot of these recent updates, or at least recent feature functionality, because a lot of this logic is coming from my head, but I need to get out of that because I want to do a lot of these videos and a lot more training and things like that. So definitely happening sooner than later. So when someone books a meeting, where does that show up? So that shows up in your task center. So inside your task, you'll see all your meetings. So anybody that books a meeting, it'll show up on a task. I have a new sales feed section coming out that, matter of fact, I really probably shouldn't show you, because anybody who's ever submitted a lead on our website, if you come back to my site, like the amount of data that we show, I really shouldn't show it on this demo. But the sales feed will have everything broken down by calendar invites, things like that. But right now, if someone comes in through your appointment, one, it shows up in your leads, right? So if someone comes in, books a meeting, it shows up as a lead, as that data form. So what I do is I create a data form specifically for that meeting page. And so when someone comes in, I know that they are there in my meeting pages. But as far as the date and calendar, you can come over here to the task center and then click on your calendar. You'll see all your meetings you have, and then you click in on that lead, and they'll take you right into that lead for that meeting. When someone books a meeting, I saw that. Any way to have a workflow to send an internal notification? Yeah. So any of your workflows, especially for booking meetings, so that workflow one is actually pretty cool. It's, goodness gracious. Yeah, so when you create, oh, I have one for lead status. So when you create a meeting page, sorry, long day, and I don't even know my own system. So you have the leads, and you have event type, which is calendar event is created. So when you create this, I won't activate that. Inside here, you have options to send an email or send an SMS. All of this is in reverse. So these two are actually in reverse, and also the lead task, anything that on timing is in reverse. So instead of this being like every other workflow, so when that event happens, you want to trigger an email or an SMS, your timing for that workflow is based on when that event happened, but not for meeting pages. It's the reverse. So in this case, if I do 0 minutes and they book a meeting on Monday at 4 p.m. Central Time, and I do 0 minutes, I'm sending this email on Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time or Central Time. So it's the actual reverse. So let's say I want to set up emails and SMS reminders to the person who booked the meeting up until that meeting date. I would set it, it's all in reverse here. So that's one thing I definitely need to do a video to explain that. That's how you can set it up to where you can remind the person that comes in, but you can also remind yourself. So instead of sending it to the new record, which is the record of the lead that went through, you can send it to any email address you want. So put whatever email address you want. If you have a group email that goes out, you can do that, and that email notification will go out to that. Also, in your meeting pages, you have that option. So in your meeting, excuse me, you go into templates and go into meetings, and you go into the sample here, invite email. So you can put your email in here for whatever you want. That'll also send the calendar invite out to you for that. So it'll show up on your calendar, which, by the way, whether you accept it, as long as you don't decline it, it still shows up on everyone's calendars for that. But yeah, you can set up a notification. Also, you get an internal notification from the system when that lead subscribes out to your site or your meeting page. You also get that notification from the system. And if you're not getting notifications, that's likely because you didn't approve your domain and you accidentally changed this setting in the branding. You don't want to change this if you're not getting notifications and you don't have a domain approved, because this is what controls all your notifications out to your system. Can we offer multiple login details for team members? So yeah, you can create users and you can create team members. So if you come in here and you create a role, which there's a team video training that I did that's on Facebook. I know that needs to be added within here, but if you come in here to your actual role, you have this option of creating teams and manage users. Those are your two you have to click on for them to be able to come in here and create your own account. So if I come in a user and I select a client support, when I go into this account, I see teams and team members. So I can come over here and create a team, like A team and B team, and then I can go create a team member and add them to those teams that I create. So yes, you can absolutely do that in many different ways. Yes. definitely need the meeting template cloning feature, and it's such an easy feature to do. Man, I really need to get that implemented. We need folders for templates like cold email templates, hot prospect templates, and so forth. So in your template section, just make sure I understand. So when I'm creating like an email template, I want to create a folder, not just a workspace. So in that folder, I have all of my email templates organized, which then if I'm inside a lead or I'm here on this screen and I click on email templates, curious on how that would work. That would be interesting to select. Now that's the whole concept of workflows, workspaces, right? So it's, I see your point. Workspaces is a whole concept of having all your email templates inside of workspaces, and inside that workspace, you only see those email templates. But yeah, that would be cool. I want to know how we would differentiate what you would see here for the email template. And how would I know? Unless you map them to already existing lead folders, and then lead folders would trigger what templates you have access to. So that would be cool. No, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Like I said, I do have to get out of here by 6:45. So I have another 15 minutes. So I'm happy to stay longer and answer any questions that's been pressing on you. I know the best place to start if you're new here and you haven't gone through our training. I know it cuts short on the actual courses because it ends after the CRM is fully set up. And I know a lot want to know about the back end as far as building out your membership pages. And then, of course, the CMS side of it. So hopefully I was able to answer a bunch of stuff. Yeah, so definitely tough. I'm creating hundreds of templates, I know. And unfortunately, if you're in the same workspace. So I'm curious about a better option for that as far as how we can organize it. And so definitely would love your suggestions. So can you show the workflow from incoming SMS keyword to being put into a lead campaign? So basically, let me go into the workflows. So you're going to create a workflow for SMS, and SMS is received, and you're going to hit create. So when you go into that, you have this option. You have your VoIP lines, and then you can add, this is a keyword phrase or whatever. It can be anything you like. And so when they reply to this with this keyword, you can trigger an automatic reply. So this is where it comes back to the actions and what you need to do and how we're growing this. The goal here, obviously, if someone replies with anything you like, we don't know their name, their first name, their last name, or any of that stuff. So if they reply to that, the only thing we have is their phone number to create a lead. So we are going to have that create lead aspect of it. Also, if you are sending out a text message to an existing lead and they reply, to me, to not get blocked by spam traps, it's only getting worse, by the way. Getting ghosted like Craigslist is like 1,000 times worse here with SMS these days, especially when you're getting queued up or throttled or whatever, right? So my favorite thing to do to prevent myself from being ghosted is I don't send links out through SMS. I send engaged text messages that get them to engage with you. And so the ones that engage back, very short to the point, like, hey, asking open-ended questions or whatever, or very specific questions you want them to respond to with very little information, instead of trying to give them all the information in the world on this text message, that immediately gets you flagged. So getting really creative with that, I would love the aspect of this going out to existing leads that you have all the data for. Then when they reply to that text message with whatever event, keyword, or phrase, like yes or no or whatever, that triggers email because we have their email already and things like that. So that is definitely growing in how you'd use that. So as far as replying by keyword, this is basically, hey, I've sent a text message out. They replied to it. Now I want to send them more information. So that was the whole concept of this is I want to send them my link to my website, which is less likely to hit a spam trap in SMS if that person sent me a text message and I'm replying to them with that. So I can say, hey, how's your day today? Would you like to learn about ERC or whatever the heck it may be? And they reply yes, then I want to trigger over my website URL to them right behind it. That will get you more. Someone smarter than me will come up with a much better open line as far as what you're trying to grab their attention to respond to. But then you put your keyword in and you respond, hit add action. Here you can say, okay, I want to wait 2 minutes and send them there. You can also set up another workflow. So think about it that way, right? It's all the different things that they can say, yes or no, to your questions that you're asking. And then you can set that up, giving them more information. But of course, what really needs to finish this is more events or more actions related to, we already know they're a lead in the system. We already have their email address. We already have their address. We may have other information that we want from them. And so we use that to create additional actions. Right now, it's just replying back and forth based on keywords. Multiple keywords within here. Yeah, that's where it comes down to. You have to create another SMS workflow for a different keyword because it's a keyword phrase match or whatever. It's just a single. It's not multiple. You're going to trigger the different, all these different steps here, or the one step that you have in here, or multiple SMS messages, right? Because you can add another SMS message to go out 5 or 6 minutes later, or 24 hours from there within there. So you just have to create another event for the same phone number and with a different keyword. I do like the idea of having multiple keywords here that will trigger the same action. So you don't have to create multiple ones for that. If you're going to have, say, if they say yes or yeah or whatever. So that actually does make sense. Now I talk through that. That would be pretty cool if you know how people respond. So I do like that. With regarding to texting, don't we need to get the permission before we text them, or is it as soon once they text us for more information? Oh, you absolutely need to. I would say everything that comes out of my mouth about what you should do or how you do things, treat it as I'm just giving you advice. To me, you have to use a system 100% guidelines of what the law is, and that is 100% up to you on how you leverage that. And for us, we have rules, we have things in place, and a lot have been contacted, and we work with you. We're not just out of line at all like a lot of these other companies. We're honestly trying to help you do it the right way. My suggestion to you is less is more. Try to get engaged with the people you're sending. And yes, you definitely need permission, depending on what state you're in and where you're at. You absolutely need to do that. And don't take this as me as saying this is how you get out of not having to do that. You should absolutely be getting permission. But if you're going to, even when you have permission, you're going to send, if you have permission, you have a list of a bunch of leads, or it's your customer list. We're going down the path of registering your businesses and things like that, especially if you're sending high volume, which a lot are, that you can register your business and go down that process. And if you're not sending high volume, just doing these workflow stuff like this and things like that, to me, even if you have their permission, sending them a 500 character text message about how you're the greatest service on the world, they're not even gonna be able to respond to you because it's not even going to make it to them. It's going to get ghosted. So to me, it's like less is more no matter what you're doing on these sends out. But yeah, I mean, that you definitely need depending on what country you're in, there's a lot of different things that you got to do on that. So does link click an SMS track back to Ligna? So yes, it does. The only ugly part about it is when you use the link tracker, it's a long link. So I don't like it. So we're working on a smaller link that's unbranded that you can use within there that'll track the link clicks. But you'll see if you use the link tracking that you put a little tag around your link, it's really long. If it uses your back office link. So you can imagine app dot whatever your domain name is with the actual link appended to the URL. So it's really long. We definitely need to revamp that. Is it possible to set up events in Facebook groups so we can all get notifications and invites? So yes, I need to do that. Absolutely need to do that. I always record these and I'll load them up and I'll send them out, but you're right. I definitely need to be more on the setting up events and so everyone can see it and make sure they attend. And I need to do a lot more of these for sure. Does the newest update include tracking SMS campaigns and SMS limits to client? All that stuff is just waiting. So SMS tracking campaigns, so it's rebuilt in a different way. So I know it was until your campaign was done, you would see those stats. The problem is when you get hung up in those API calls, sometimes your stats would get delayed. In addition to that, It's just a pain for us to go through and see that your campaign response, even though it already went out, response that it was actually finished. So that's been changed to give you real-time updates on that. In addition to that, the opt-out, when they reply to opt-out, being able to filter just like you do for email. And so that's going to give you more control on that. And then, of course, the user limits, which is all part of that update, you'll be able to control how much they can send out to your client in addition to your parent accounts. Yes, I definitely need to set up Facebook events. I don't think I've been meaning to do that and I haven't done it one time. So yes, I will make sure the next meeting I have, I will do that. And I assume you're talking about the meetings I'm doing and not an integration to Facebook events. Yeah, so the SMS revamp update, I am almost ready to push that. Like I said, a lot of stuff that you're seeing back there got delayed because of the CMS and me needing to be involved in that. So now I'm just QAing stuff, getting to sit back and direct traffic. Should be a fun end of the week for me.
John.
Yeah, no worries. I appreciate everyone. You know, like I said, I have another 10 minutes. So if you have anything pressing,
Yep.
you want me to answer, feel free to shoot. I'm trying to, I want to show you all the sales for you, but I'm just looking to see if there's any. Yeah, it would not be good. Because there's several of you on the call right now that has come back to our website. So it's really cool. I'll just give you a quick overview on the sales fee because I definitely will have that out by the end of the week. The sales fee is going to show you, and it's a new workflow that's tied to it. So if you come back to your website, so if you've noticed, your leads have tracking built into them if they come in through one of the pixels or one of the data forms on your sites, right? So there's this aspect of it. I think this one has tracking in. Oops, I don't have my lead in here. Oh, you know what? I don't. Interesting. Oh, it doesn't matter. The sales feed is going to give you that lead visit. So when they come back to your website, that'll allow you to trigger whatever workflow that you want. Send them an email. Thanks for visiting my website again, or send you a notification. But as a salesperson, you have the lead visits tab, which will show you. I really want to show you this. Actually, if I can just close all these right here and not click on them when I'm in here. Okay, yeah, I'll just do this. I won't click on them because I don't want to show anybody's personal information. Oops. Okay. Basically, there's two more tabs that are done. I just have to publish them. But basically what happens here is if you have a lead that comes in, so you can come in here and make your phone call directly through here. You can send your email, you can send your text message, which is cool. Your little text message box pops down and you can see all your stuff here. So you can reply directly in here. You can close out your task if you want to directly through here. And so you can change your disposition, your call status or lead status, but it pulls in all that information that's relevant. So based on what they actually did on that site. And so that's for your lead visits, your email opens, your SMS replies, your call only stage. I'm missing something. I forget the other one. Oh, cadences. So obviously those goes into your email opens and your SMS. What's great about this is this algorithm is, it's not that complex, but it's pretty cool. Basically, this is refreshing all the time. So when you change this, whenever you do into your call status, which these don't have the call status set up on that, but when I change a call status here, that'll remove this tile from here and it'll reload the next person that's supposed to make a call. So you can sit here and make calls all through this and never go into your leads view. And of course, you'll be able to apply all these to a call queue if you choose. But what's great is the workflow that you're going to be able to do in a lead visit. So if a lead comes in through your website, this happens all the time, especially if you scheduled a demo with us, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't respond to that lead, or maybe that lead didn't respond to you, and they come back to your website, knowing when they come back to your website, or maybe they're in your pipeline and they're now looking at your website again. Having a workflow that's triggered that goes out based on them coming to your website is huge. Also, the email opens. So the email opens, triggering your workflow or removing them from a cadence or whatever you may want to do. I know there's a trigger for that in the cadence section, but there's other things that you may want to do. I don't know. You can get really creative with it. So yeah, this is the new sales feed system that is basically ready to go. Just need to push that out. So that is next in the works. How did Dev get stuck on CMS? Sent you an update on that. He said he wasn't able to delete his own CMS that he added. So that's definitely something I'll take a look at, depending on where he added that. And if he added that in the subsection there that I was showing you in the previous builder, that would be helpful as well. But I know you sent me a video on that, so I will look at that for sure. Thank you. Anybody have anything else? What does Ligna stand for? It's not Ligma, by the way. I know I got a lot of crap for that. I didn't even know what Ligma was until I asked my son, who evidently, if you play Fortnite, you know exactly what that is. But Ligna is the Latin word for timber, which I used to have tmbr.com for many years. And I was always going to have this platform for that brand. And somehow, some way, I totally forgot to renew that domain and it went away. So I was trying to find something small like TMBR and wanting to be around that whole building your house and things like that. So yeah, it's just a Latin word for timber, not Ligma, by the way. Clarify, the email, voice, and SMS are shared with me, my clients, customers, correct? If so, we definitely need a limitation. Yep, no doubt. So you're not the only one. That was a big project for us. It is in QA right now. So it took us about 8 months to build that. And I probably should have started with that, but things were moving so quick. And of course, we didn't have parents of all that stuff going on. So we are definitely know how important it is. And I was hoping we were starting 2023 with everyone having their own limits, but we're days away. And I know I said days away from the CMS. So if you want to take what I normally say on days away, pat it for about 4 or 5 days, and we'll be right around where I open my mouth and say, this is when this is going to happen. And then I end up being a few days late, for sure. Is there training to build near me sites? Yeah, definitely. If you go out to my YouTube channel, I have one out there right now that will break down exactly how to do it. It's actually pretty easy once you go in. You're going to want to build it in this settings, templates, funnel section. And once you build your site and you have it the way you want it, you're going to click on deploy near me. You're going to name it. This is your internal name. So for me, a client that we work on, maybe a home improvement contractor that we're going to deploy for 50 cities. Right? We're going to name it the name of that company. So the company name. Then we're going to put in Texas. And then we're going to put in Austin, no comma, just new line. And then Houston, Dallas. Optimization standpoint, folder or subdomain. I've been doing this a long time. Matter of fact, recent updates from Google actually changes the complete game for this. The concept from SEO is creating individual service pages that have very little valuable content. User experience is just this local page. There's no value to them on that page other than the local information, right? Those are the ranking standpoint, and it's been all over the place, and you've seen it if you've looked at it, has been interesting. What I found and what everyone's found is that the ones that have full-blown sites that have a lot of content, services pages, all that stuff are exploding. And again, having a single page is not bad. It's how you set it up, and if you just not look ridiculous, like if it's no benefit to the user, a single page. But now with these full sites and having all your services and everything in there, it's unbelievable now. Like networks that we've had that been doing really are just absolutely crushing it beyond belief now. But sorry, I'm trailing off. But the domain type, so folder or subdomain, one of the biggest things to know is that if this is a new domain, don't start, you can start with either option if it's a brand new domain, because you're starting from scratch. If you're starting with a domain that's already existing and you have some age to it, you're going to want to do folder based. And all folder based means is you go to domain.com / whatever / tx / Austin. It's like that directory look. If you search online, you'll see every like directory in the first 3 spots all the time. You're trying to create that hierarchy with a folder base. Subdomain, if you're starting from scratch, works just as well over time. I've seen folder based will go get you ranking a lot faster and give you more visibility, but over time they basically work the same. You put the same amount of effort in building up some quality content around your domain. Subdomain is the best approach, in my opinion, if you're going to build agent-based sites for real estate agents. If you're a broker, and I'll give you an example. We finally convinced this company to rebuild their website. Their designer built this, and I hate showing this example because the site it looks okay, but it's not what we would create. So you have your main domain, you go down to your branch locations. In your branch location, you have your individual domain right? These are just tags for the images for the city. This is bringing in the agent. So then the agent has their own subdomain on the individual branch site, and they crush it. They get tons and tons of leads on a local level. And again, the internal pages and all the whole site, they're all the same site within here, but optimized. And then you have your personal content that you have within the individual loan officer. And so in this case, you have these tags that you use for the images. You have the tags for the name. You have the tags for their title. They're only doing this in their profile. They don't have to do any of this stuff. And then you have a workflow for when they sign up for that role. Inside the workflow, you have an option of creating a workflow for, oh my gosh, I have too much stuff back here. Okay, so when you create a workflow to create a new user, so let's say you had like a real estate agent role or whatever, you can have that funnel created on demand, whatever one you have set up, that'll create it. Then the user goes into their profile, and in their profile, you have all these custom tags, right? So you create all these data fields. So you create all your different tags for user info. So text input, text area, whatever. Then that's what you use your tag on your website. And then this user, Mark, who comes in, he uploads his photo in his profile. That shows up in the tag area of the site, puts in his phone number, his cell phone, his email, whatever, his own apply link, his mortgage calculator. Now it's on a subdomain. So that was a long explanation of when you would use, I would say, subdomains over a folder. If you're starting with a brand new domain, or if you're creating some sort of agent organization, a franchise, right? Because you got to think on a franchise level, they're going to use by the way, these domains as well, you use them on Google Profile, you use them on your local citations, you use those addresses. Depending on the network, it's probably overkill to explain. It's really just personal preference. But if the domain's been around for a while, you're not having individual users manage the site, you're just trying to create a lead gen network, 100% need to do folder based. If you're doing a subdomain approach with a brand new domain, over time works just as good. But if you're trying to create something a little more sophisticated, which by the way, you can go to any mortgage company on the planet and ask them how much they're paying for their agent websites, their CRM, their voice, and everything else. And it's ridiculous. I could pick up the phone and cold call every single mortgage company in the United States, and I'd probably close 5 a week with an aggressive pricing model as well. And so you create your folder and your subdomain, then you put your domain in. You can assign it to a workspace if you want, and you hit add. This takes about, depending on how many sites that you put in or cities, could take 10 minutes. Most cases, this runs every minute. So in 3 minutes, in most cases, if you have 50 to 100 sites. If you're trying to do a whole state, so if you don't put cities in, it'll deploy the whole state. So others want to do the whole country. Unfortunately, you have to do each state by state. I don't have a full country available for you yet. And so you can do state and then all the cities, or you can just leave the cities out and put the state, and it'll deploy every single city that's an actual city registered in the state. That doesn't mean it's not a township. There's a lot of little cities that don't show up as an actual city. If you want to be very specific, like here in Austin, there's 52 cities within a 50-mile radius. Each of those cities are not listed in the city database or whatever, little towns or whatever you want to call them. So you just paste in all those cities that you want on Newline here, and then just hit add. And so that'll go out and build out all your sites, and they'll show up in your CMS section. And then when you make a change, just note, if you make a change on your template, that will funnel down to all your child sites. It's just not instant. So as long as you go into your main site here that you made the change and it's what you want, just know that every minute it's going to go out. It's fast, but every minute it runs to make those updates across all your child sites. So it may take a few minutes, especially if you have 36,000 websites, it may take a minute to get to every site. So as long as it's changed on your main site, it'll funnel down. Unless it's been overridden by the child site, which is great as if you want to continue to build multiple pages and expand the site and someone has already altered it, such as their logo and things like that. It won't override what's been changed or altered. It'll only override what's in there. So could we use the near me sites to gather leads and sell them on via phone call and data? Absolutely. There's I would say a couple of companies that do something similar, right? They'll deploy a website that's already built, call it, already have their brand or logo on it or whatever, and go out there and place a phone call. So you can absolutely do that. My, I guess, model as far as what I do. So I have different layers that I would sell and package, right? So I would create a lead gen network. This would be like, I'll give you an example. So I would have all these sites, all the cities, all out there, generating leads, ranking with some whatever brand. It doesn't even matter what the brand is. And again, you can brand it as something, because you could be a lead gen service for a specific niche. So you have this site out there that's generating leads. You get that lead, you can call up that person and say, hey, I got a free lead for you. I'll give you this lead. I also have this dedicated site that I can put your brand on in your phone number. What's also cool is you can rotate your clients. I need to do a training on this because it's big time, especially with pay-per-click. You can actually rotate this site to where it'll have a different brand, different phone number. When they fill out this form, it goes into a different user. So when you start doing paid advertising, so what I would do is I would create this lead gen network. I would build content on it. I'd spend some time kind of getting some authority to that domain. It's my long-term play. Then I'm going to go and make another template that's really high-end, really awesome, and either give that away to potential customers or have them pay a low subscription for that website and the CRM and everything else. Of course, I would do some dumbed down training and remove some tabs and things like that, and maybe even offer a done for you setup and have it perfect for them set up, because small business owners aren't going to go through all that in most cases. So even if it's the easiest tool in the world, done for you setups, in my opinion, is high value, low effort, especially whatever. So you got that going. And then in addition to that, you have some sort of paid campaign. So the paid campaign with the rotating side of it, which I would love to do a training on this, just the whole concept of it, right? When you go do a Facebook campaign. So for instance, I had a really good Facebook campaign. It's easy to have a campaign like that when you're offering such a great deal, but it's about being on top of the responses or whatever. But you'll notice that the amount of leads that I got for the cost or the amount of clicks and then the whole everything suddenly magically went phenomenal numbers when I moved up to $2,000 a day. When I had it dripping at $150 a day, I was paying 7 times the amount of money I was when I was spending $2,000 a day for the same conversion. So why is that? It's one, I'm expanding a bigger market and getting in front of more people, but the larger the budget, it's been proven over and over and over again, your cost per lead is significantly lower. Your conversions are much higher. Hard to do that to a small business owner who trying to convince them to spend $10,000 a month is difficult. However, if you have 10 of them spending $1,000 a month or 20 of them spending $500 a month, and you conduct one paid campaign going to a single URL that rotates all 20 of those businesses, branding that same asset, now you don't have to go create 20 different campaigns with just a $500 budget. You have one campaign with a $20,000 budget. And the amount of leads you're able to generate for that business is significantly higher. The cost per click, cost per lead, everything is significantly lower. And you are creating more profit for yourself because you've only created one campaign opposed to 20 different campaigns. So that's what I would do, right? So I would create these near me sites. That's my long-term goal. If they rank and generate leads, they do. So what happens when you deploy, especially in all of these states, the lower half of your cities, smaller cities, will instantly rank on the first page of Google because no one's coming out with this page as a page for every single industry. It's about cloud VS. It's a great homepage, a lot of content, videos. Nobody's going to build a single website for that single little Leander, Texas website. Nobody's doing that. So you're automatically going to rank on the first page of Google for it because you're the highest quality. And if you just want to build quality for Google, you're going to get rewarded for sure, no matter any way you do it. So bottom half, especially the lower half, lower thirds, all that, smaller cities, you're going to rank on the first page of Google. You have these random leads coming in from all these different cities. And then the second half, you may be on page 5 to 10, and then the bigger cities, you're just nowhere to be found. But then you take the sitemap system, which I show you on that video, and you submit all your sitemaps, start building some content. Great idea for content is we now service this area. So write a press release with the city. We now serve this area about your business, a link to the local site, and launch randomly through some of the bigger cities, the middle cities, the lower cities, launch those out on press release sites. Not the same article on all of them. We'll pick out one article, rewrite it. You need Chat GPT, say, write me 25 of these, right?
Let me run up the block anyway, man. I gotta run.
Now you have all this out, of
Right,
course,
yeah.
altering that, right? Because you want it to be as unique as possible as you can. And then launch that out and then spend some time building some content backlinks and things like that and let that network sit. You'll start getting some leads and then you can call up businesses and sell them those leads or even sell them on this concept. Give them that free site, charge a customization fee, onboard for done for you setup, whatever. And then those paid campaigns are the highest profits margins you'll ever get when you do it that way, because you're only doing one campaign and they love it because all they care about is their phone ringing. And when you're able to control all that, and again, it rotates the whole brand, it rotates their whole back office. So a lead comes in, it goes to them. Phone call comes into their phone number for tracking. You have phone tracking set up so you can track every phone call that comes in. And so that little solution there, 100% can be sold all day, not all in the campaign, just explaining that low advertising budget to generate leads for that. So that's what I would do. And I absolutely need a course on every element of that. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent there. Be useful to understand templates versus child funnel overriding dynamics. Yeah, definitely need to break that down. I need a course on that. I know that. And honestly, I knew this was coming in the back end. So creating a course and then having to go back through it, it's going to be difficult, but I'm definitely doing that and start moving into more of this fun stuff about what you can do with the platform, how you can make money on it. And I know that all starts with user limits, because what I just said was great. But all it takes is one yo-yo to get in there and start adding 50 lines, and now you don't have any lines. Definitely need to get that going and get everything going. So unfortunately, I've gone too long. I apologize. I really enjoyed it. I'm, again, dedicated and focused to pulling myself out of all these things that I promised I'm still stuck in, so I can spend more time with you guys. And I appreciate everything. And 2022 is unbelievable because of y'all. So I really appreciate y'all very much. So y'all have a great night. And yeah, if you have any issues with your old sites, please get on the chat and throw it in there. I'll make sure we get to every single one. I think I converted everything, but if not, please let me know. So I appreciate everyone. Y'all have a great rest of your evening. Thank y'all very much.